Hello, people of YouTube.
Hello.
I am American McGee.
I'm Martin.
Although we are sometimes referred to by our alter ego superhero names. Stick Boy
And Font Lord.
Yes, well, I did say in the pre-broadcast social media posts that you would be very seraphy today.
Hello, YouTube.
So
Hello. Did you?
Yeah, so you're gonna have to add all of the serif today.
Martin.
Flourishes, you know, little sticks coming off of bits and pieces of
Okay.
superhero names.
How's that done verbally?
I don't know. You're gonna have to show us.
You have to say like thou
Yes.
and stuff.
I did say. So what are we doing today? Well, we have a bunch of our insane children in the chat window here, which is hidden by this camera. So scoot that over. You're gonna have to add all of the ancient child artistry there, and Philippe, little Bedoya, sticks and one-eyed skull.
Okay. Marie's here.
Lucas is there. I don't know. You're gonna have to show us.
You have to say like
children
thou.
there.
Anyone new? Muddy Moose.
So, what are we doing today? Well,
Muddy Moose
a bunch
looks
of our
French.
insane children in the chat window. So yeah, for those of you, scoot that over, turn the mush off ancient child artistry there and delete this window. There we
Gosh darn it.
So yeah, for those of you who've been with us before, you do know that we sometimes experience lag and technical difficulties. Hopefully today, not so much, because we think, knock on wood, we've found a good VPN server. So.
Don't jinx it, man.
Yeah, sorry about that. And the echo will go away in a moment here. I did just mute the window that was causing that problem. Anyway, we are here today to do some art review. We do have some new artwork related to Alice Asylum and specifically related to tarot. Are you a lover of the mystic cards?
I wouldn't say I'm a lover, but I mean, they're interesting. I like the pictures.
There's a lot of reports of weirdness and trippy.
It'll go.
It'll go. Yeah, just calm.
It's probably
down
already
there.
gone by the time they hear us say it'll go.
So yeah, tarot cards. We are going to be talking about tarot cards today because there is a lot of work being done on the artwork related to Alice Asylum that also flows into or out of the world of tarot and the enemies that are being built around tarot cards and the kind of story progression that we're going to see that's echoed in tarot cards. So anyway, we'll have a look at that. What other kind of things are we doing with cards today? Because I know our prize for today...
Ooh. The prize for today, we will be giving away Out of the Woods card game. We did.
We did do that.
Look how amazing that box turned out.
That actually gets fairly high marks and still sells quite well. I'm always surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be because it's all shiny and cool, and it is emo uno. And so, yeah, we'll be giving away some emo uno today.
We will.
There you
So,
go.
fingers crossed. Good luck for you guys on that. Let's hope Nightbot is in your favor.
Philippe says, "Can you start over? The echo was loud."
We didn't really say anything.
Yeah, we just said
hi,
hello.
Stickboy, Font Lord,
and I think we did actually.
VPN.
We called out some of your names. So Philippe, we did actually say your name.
Let's do it again.
One-Eyed
Skull, Ghibli Girl, Lucas Severin. I called someone French because they said bonjour. Yeah, I don't think you missed much.
I don't think you missed very much. So anyway, that has been fixed, and we can just jump right into art review. So we do have quite a bit of art to look at specific to tarot. And so we've got our artists working on designs for the cards, but also taking inspiration from the cards to build enemies. So this actually started off as a piece of artwork that was like an inspiration artwork that Omri found that an artist had done, like these porcelain sculptures. We couldn't really get a sense of how big they were. They could have been as big as a room, or they could have been as big as just regular old teacups. But anyway, he found a pretty cool piece of art where there were teacups with legs and bitey mouths in there. And he's taken inspiration from that to create some enemies based off of the minor arcana water elemental cups, which are, of course, things from the tarot.
They are.
And these
I think cups is probably one of the only things I know from tarot.
Well, they're sometimes called cups. They're sometimes called chalices. And I think there's another term. I referred to them as goblets in the post over on Patreon where we were talking about this. So he does say here, this was the name, was an artist named Ronit Barang.
Ronit Barang.
How would you say that? Ronit Barang?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either. So Omri did ask the question, and it was nice of him to do so. If you go over to the Google and you look at Ronit Baranga, you will find that this artist is featured there, is an Israeli artist born in 1973, according to Google. But this was the art that Omri had found that I guess it's a she, that she had done. And so he was concerned, like, do we need to ask permission? And I think in a lot of cases, yeah, if we find something that's really original, what's going on there? Is that teapot sort of...
Is it canoodling?
It looks like something naughty is happening there. These are pretty cool, these rings. I like those. So he was asking, should we ask permission and to use this? And, I think in general, yeah, it's good to credit other artists and to talk about how we might have taken inspiration. But I did mention to him that it's not like we didn't have, say, for instance, the teapot enemies in Madness Returns. And of course, those are teapots with legs and eyes. And we didn't even know that Ronit existed when we came up with these, right?
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, they're the same. It's, teapots and stuff, like you say, legs and eyes, but they do look massively different.
Well, and also the idea that you'd have a teacup with legs is not... it's not totally original either. I mean, if you just Google teacup with legs, you'll get quite a lot of different variations on this theme. But again, I think it's a nice thing for Omri, for once, to suggest that we might reach out and ask somebody for permission to use a concept or perhaps to credit them. And of course, look, we are crediting her for the bit of inspiration that he took. And that's what... these cups, I think they're kind of a combination of that inspiration plus what we've done in the past. So what do we think about these as enemies?
I like them. I can just imagine them, I like the fingers on these, kind of like pointy black nails, and I can imagine them sort of like tottering towards you, spilling drink and nonsense. Be quite creepy.
I mean, I actually liked of all the kind of original enemies that we had in Alice Madness Returns, I actually quite liked the teapots because they had a variety of action. They had very clear tells as to... Do you remember their loop, like before they would attack you?
What did they do?
Well, they'd sort of charge up. They would squat down, charge up, and there was just a lot of sort of character in the business of them preparing to either fire the cannon shot at you, or when they came to attack, they sort of danced around really nicely. You can see how that one's working there. So I really liked them, and I think that another aspect of them that was cool was just how expressive that giant eye was. It's not often that an enemy character in a game, oftentimes you're just sort of sniping at it from a distance. Eyes don't really translate really well in games, on human characters at a distance and things like that. But when you've got such a big eyeball, it opens it up to express a lot. And of course, this one had its eyelid animation really integrated very nicely.
It's good.
Yeah.
And I do like an enemy that telegraphs a little warning to you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it gives you an opportunity to understand where you should counter, where you should block, and where you should attack. So I thought these were pretty cool.
Yeah.
That doll with screws in its eyes.
Huh.
That looks painful.
I know, it's like a Joey image.
Well, it's
imagine her doing something like that.
It's one of the screwed up doll enemies from Madness Returns.
Was it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring those back. I think this one flew through the air, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So yeah, that was the tarot art, the concept art for a tarot teacup enemy. And the idea being that Omri wants to start with the minor arcana that is sort of like the lesser cards, and then work our way through it to some of the bigger, more well-known cards, such as like the Fool, for instance, which we touched on before. So yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback, your comments on that. Do you like the idea of tarot?
People in the chat seem to be liking the old teacups idea. I'm not seeing any negativity around that. Because Priscilla's not here, is she?
Yeah. So I do see some questions and some comments regarding the fluid that is carried by these cups. And I think, we had the idea of the fluids being a part of the cannon shot for the teapot cannons. Obviously, that was in the name. I think for an enemy like this, having them somehow figure out a way to fling or vomit the tea at you. I like the fact that this thing has got a mouth incorporated into the base of it, because then he could spew a stream of acidic tea-like substance at you, and that would be pretty cool to see.
Quite like that. That's like a stack of cups. So it's like bent over like its neck. I like that.
Well, it could also be an indicator of how much damage you've done to it. If they start off with the base and the legs have these legs attached to the final cup here, but as you beat on this thing or fire shots at it and you're able to knock the cups off, that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe they smash from the top down until you defeat it.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, so that's the opening volley towards the idea of cups as an item that we would fight, and we'll have to see where that goes. But of course, looking for your feedback and comment on those things. If you like or dislike or want to see more of that kind of stuff, let us know.
Please do
in the chat. Now, continuing along, this was actually the image that I shared this morning when we were doing the alert.
And it's the YouTube thumbnail.
It is the YouTube thumbnail. I did a little work in Photoshop on it, though.
Right? Is that it?
I changed the word Pentacle to Satan.
Oh, yes.
And because I figured that would bother the internet a bit. And of course, we're always looking for ways to bother the internet so we can attract more people in to watch what we're doing here on YouTube. We would never be drama merchants, would we?
Maybe.
So the idea here, this was for Pentacles, the minor arcana, the earth element, and Omri decided to riff off of the sort of ruin that we did see in Madness Returns. Again, this going back to, if you look at sort of that enemy we had up a second ago with sort of the broken doll business, we should be able to find some, like there's a ruin enemy. So what he's done here for Pentacles is to work off of this theme. I thought these things were really cool, these enemies. Did you like these?
The giant ruins?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look cool.
I think there's one aspect of these that didn't work as well for me, and it was the sound effects, because they were very screamy, quite high-pitched and very screamy. And I feel like for a lot of them, that was a little bit off-putting. I think I'd wished that the sounds had been kind of deeper and more resonant and more monstrous.
Right. I don't really remember the sound.
Yeah,
I'll believe you.
You'll have to take my word for it. So what's going on here is a kind of riff off of that ruin type enemy, the broken dolls, the circus stuff. It's sort of like all this crap smashed together. So what he's said here is that earth enemies can be combined by whatever that is around in the level. What merges them together is the scorched dirt with cyan cracks. So this isn't exactly the ruin, because what he's suggesting here is that this connects with earth, the earth elemental, and that what is holding all this stuff together is earth. And that, in fact, these items don't necessarily have to be the busted doll parts. They could just be pretty much anything that's picked up in the environment. Kind of like a Katamari Damacy, but except from Satan.
Kind of reminds me of the bit in Akira, in the nursery, when all the toy stuff sort of goes mental and it all starts merging together and piling up.
Yeah.
Man, I've not seen Akira in ages.
It's an excellent, excellent movie. I think my concern, as a note on this to Omri, is having it pick up everything in the environment. could be problematic from a technical standpoint, unless you do want to end up with a giant Katamari Damacy ball. And that sort of implementation of an item or a character that can pick up all kinds of stuff from the environment, it does require a lot of forethought and the implementation of constraints with regards to the types of objects that are in the environment and what makes sense or doesn't make sense in terms of what can and cannot be picked up. So I don't know if, it's probably not realistic that it could pick up like everything in the environment, because you're not going to pick up all the rocks and the trees. And so with that in mind, then I would also say that because there's going to have to be constraints on what it can pick up, then you need to ask the question of thematically, what are the constraints? And then what I would say is only have it pick up stuff in a particular group, maybe dead or discarded enemies or broken doll parts. That way it feels kind of thematically consistent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's still a hodgepodge, but it's not like
everything.
It's like it's only doll parts, or this one is only plant parts.
Well,
just keep it slightly themed.
Yeah, and I'm saying that from two different directions. One, programmatically, technically, it's not, it's the kind of thing where if you were to say to a programmer, hey, we want an enemy that can like gobble up everything in the environment, the programmer would fall over out of his chair from trauma. And then the other thing is, if you were to say to an art director, hey, we want an enemy that can cobble together a hodgepodge of everything, again, the art director would fall over and be like, well, you don't need me then, do you? Because there's no direction to that.
Right.
If that makes sense. So
it does.
I'd say one of the things in terms of feedback from me on this is constraints. Let's hone it down. Let's focus it down. Now, the other thing I want to say is, and I'm curious to hear what the chat thinks about this, when you think of pentacles and you think of the earth element, is this what you think of? Is a blobby monster that picks things up in a sort of satanic Katamari Damacy style?
Maybe if the sort of the stuff that's binding everything together was a bit more earthy looking, a bit browner, a bit like soil, perhaps.
Right. I would suggest that we back off of this. Let's set this aside for a second, and then, like with everyone in the chat and you and me sitting here for a second, let's actually think about and talk about what pentacles are supposed to represent in the world of tarot. As it says here, they deal with the physical or external level of consciousness, and thus they mirror the outer situations of your health, finances, work, and creativity. They have to do with what we make of our outer surroundings. So I can see how Omri might have picked up on that, what we make of our outer surroundings and how we create it, shape it, and transform it and grow it. Again, I can see what he's gone with here is, hey, let's just take all of the outer surroundings and lump it all together and turn it into a monster. Now it continues here and says, on a more esoteric level, pentacles are associated with the ego, self-image, and self-esteem. And that, of course, this is all associated with the element of earth. So the earth is tactile, earthy, and tangible. Now, look, when I read this, one of the things that comes to mind almost immediately is I pick up on the fact of ego. I pick up on the fact of the outer surroundings of the earth, but the mirror, right? So when I read that, the first thing that comes to mind is that we get golems, that we could get golems that are reflections of Alice. Do you know what a golem is?
Well, it's supposed to be like a big clay shaped of something, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, in the traditional sort of, I think they come from the Bible, they come from Judeo-Christian mythology. A golem is essentially a thing of earth, a man made out of earth. I think there's been comics, right? There's been comics on the topic.
Golems in plenty of
D&D.
Yeah.
So what if our pentacles literally rose up out of the earth and they reflected Alice? So we got earthy, muddy, look, there's a kind of a golem-y earth element. What if we got reflections of Alice herself as enemies? So little mud baby Alices that rise up out of the ground that she has to fight against.
Quite creepy, sort of like muddy little girls, but sort of like chunky arms and all sort of deformed in various ways. That might be good.
I feel like something like that is more focused. I'm not saying that we have to go that direction. I'm just saying that thematically, you could probably convince me to kind of get on board with the link between that kind of thing versus this kind of thing. This feels like literally like everything in the kitchen sink.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, what's our chat saying about this? Are we getting any sort of?
Well, One-Eyed Skull apparently doesn't like it.
Doesn't like
that image. Maybe they're talking about that. Yeah, Ancient Child. Maybe make it more like a clay monster.
Mm-hmm.
Ashlyn Trevino could see it as a golem. I think people are on board.
Yeah, I like this. Ashlyn Trevino says, I think it would be better to have these items look like they were withered and decayed with moss growing on them or just vegetation growing out of them. Yeah, I mean, I could imagine, and it could be kind of fun, especially if there was a little bit of procedural magic to the way that these golems manifested, how they built. And so that every time one came up out of the earth and they dragged along little bits of rock and mud and twigs, and you got slight variations in the shape of the Alices that were created, that could be kind of fun. And also, of course, when you fought with them, the way they come apart, the way they break apart, maybe they reform. Maybe little bits of them can then run over and reconnect with the larger ones.
Kind of like the old doll idea.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Which we are talking about something like that, right? If we build that kind of system. So here's
if
another...
that technology gets made,
it would work very
use
well
it
for this.
all over. Don't just have it as like one enemy.
That's correct. So this is one of those places where there's an efficiency. So if we go to a programmer and we say, hey, remember how we asked you to make that system which programmatically creates enemies out of doll parts? And you'd be like, yes, that almost killed me. And then you say, well, we're asking you to use that same system, but now do it with bits and pieces of earth and rock from the environment. And the programmer would look at you and be like, oh, thank God. Okay, yeah, I can do that, Instead of build us an enemy system that just takes everything from the entire environment. What do you mean everything? Everything. Like this picture that Omri drew. I quit. So yeah.
Noticed a couple of people in the chat have also noticed that there's not so many people here today. And some say that they thought it was happening tomorrow. Was YouTube still using like last week's Friday makeup stream time? Have we started wrong?
Yeah, I don't think so. I had to set the start time, but maybe I got it wrong.
But we've been talking about this, that everything we're doing this month seems to have less interaction.
Yes.
The advertising we're doing, the posts we're doing, you name it. Anything we're doing on social media and whatnot is getting a lot less people this month, because apparently August is a poop month for doing this type of stuff, because everyone's on holiday and whatnot.
We looked this up and we found a very informative graph, and it was related to Kickstarters, but I think that it probably relates to lots of things in terms of online social media marketing, sales, Patreon, YouTube, and it showed that December was the worst month in terms of trying to get online engagement, and then that's followed by August. And we definitely have seen that because we've been in the midst of doing the Cheshire Kitten promotion.
We're promoting the chuffery out of this online.
And what we've seen is a response to this which is essentially in line with the response we got from the White Rabbit. But I will admit that my expectation was, because the kitten, the Cheshire Cat, is a much more well-known and I think loved item, plus the set we've put together, I believe, is maybe cooler. I expected to see a little bit of an increase in reaction, and in fact, we've seen a
little down.
Similar reaction.
Similar, but yeah. Anyway, August. There you go.
But it does look like I set this thing up incorrectly in terms of the start time, so I apologize for that. I swear I sat there at the computer yesterday, and I have to manually select our time zone, and I have to manually input the date time. And I actually looked at my calendar and I was like, yes, I'm doing this on the right date and time. And I even forced myself to double check.
I swear I double checked it, Your Honor.
Well, sorry. Anyway, for those of you that are here, welcome. And guess what? You know what it means?
You've got a better chance of winning a prize.
You have a much better chance of winning the prize. So speaking of, well, we'll go for it. Yeah. Got about 4 minutes to go, but why don't we go for it? So what are we giving away?
We're giving away, as previously mentioned, Out of the Woods.
Out of the Woods.
Emo Uno fairy tale card game that we made.
You are terrible at the spam questions.
I forgot to make any questions.
It's going to be all me today. Don't worry, insane children.
Well, no, I have one, covered. But it's terrible. I'll do it later.
Is it, how often does Martin interrupt American during a live stream? Is it that question?
Maybe.
Could be. Anyway, so you'll need to spam up the chat with your favorite fairy tale from Out of the Woods. There's only about 12 of them in there, but anyway, we need you to spam up the chat. Sure. Bluebeard is in there. Three Little Pigs is in there. Jack and the Beanstalk is in there. Rapunzel is in there. Little Mermaid is in there. Red Riding Hood is in there.
Wow.
You want me to keep going, or have you heard enough yet?
That'll do.
That'll do, pig. That'll do, pig. Yeah, there's quite a few really good fairy tales in there. So of the ones I just mentioned, you can spam up the chat with which one is your favorite. And we will be giving away a set of Out of the Woods. Now, while we wait for you to spam up the chat, there are really not that many of you here today. So someone's going to win for sure. And it's very likely to be you.
Who?
You, him, her,
them. That person
is going to win. While we're waiting for you to spam up the chat, we will just take a very quick look at the Cheshire Kitten plush that we just mentioned. Today we're gonna, what's the word?
Shill this. Don't know. Push, promote.
Okay, big up. I thought you liked to say big up.
I do like big up.
Okay, well, so we're going to big up the Cheshire Kitten plush collector set. Now, this is the page over at Mysterious where you will eventually be able to purchase it. But if you want to get it faster and cheaper and all that kind of good stuff, and I know you're not supposed to use the word cheap. It cheapens your product when you do that. You should actually follow the link that's going to take you over to Patreon. And there on Patreon, you will be able to do all the things. There's actually quite a bit of a guide there. I'm not sure. It's somewhere there. Patreon /
You could have had it. Keep going. Keep going. There it is. Show more.
There you go. Well, there is a tier over there for that. Basically, you have a look here. There's a $50 per month. Now, remember, you only need to do that for 1 month.
Just the one.
And that'll get you the Cheshire Kitten and all the stuff that comes along with it. So,
yeah.
Okay, was that enough shilling?
For now. We'll do it again later.
Do you feel shilled?
So, there's a lot of Red Riding Hood and Rapunzel going on. Didn't think Rapunzel would be so popular.
You know, as we've said before, I find her to be one of the more frustrating of the stories because from almost the beginning of her imprisonment, she has in her hands the key to her escape, which is the hair which she lets down for the prince to climb up and the witch to climb up. And I actually think it's in the recent movie where she finally figures out to cut her hair off and tie it to the thing and climb down it. And I just think that would have got you out of there.
Talking about Tangled?
I think that's in Tangled, is it not?
She doesn't cut her hair. I like Tangled. It's good fun.
It is a good movie. But yeah, Rapunzel, you idiot. If you wanted to escape from the tower, you just cut the hair off and tie it and just climb, and you're gone. You're golden, and you wouldn't have had to have your eyes poked out by the Wicked Witch.
Silly Billy.
Silly. Alrighty. So yes, lots of Rapunzel, lots of Bluebeard. One-Eyed Skull wants to be noticed.
I always notice you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what Nightbot says here. Hey, Jennifer.
Yay.
So, now I guess she's going to try to give this away.
I'm not going to write anything down just yet.
Because I know she's already got a copy maybe, and she's going to say,
Probably.
give it to someone else.
Let's see.
Jennifer, Nightbot has shined upon you. Congratulations. Do let us know, Jennifer, if you're going to hold on to that. Don't feel bad if you are. It's totally fine.
You did win after all. It's up to you.
It is up to you. And while we wait for Jennifer's response on that, this bit of art has come up recently and again features the doll parts.
It says, oh, geez, Rick, give it to someone else.
Does she?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Hold on a second. Thank you for that, Jennifer. You're very sweet. B-Nuts.
B-Nuts wins sometimes, I
Look,
think.
Man,
but
there's nobody here to win.
It's
so
like 46 eligible people.
That's why I pointed at the camera and said that person is going to win. Because when there's only like 2 people watching, then that's what you get.
Well, let's see what B-Nuts says.
All right, B-Nuts. You won. Let us know if you're going to hold on to it. Now, continuing along with art review, we have the Boojum / Phantasmagoria.
Which one's which?
Well, it says it says something right here, Martin. What's that say?
It says Phantasmagoria.
And what's that say?
I won't base these, but I would merge them in. Boojum.
That is a Boojum. Now, these are both enemy or names, characters, creatures that are referred to in the original books. And yet, I have to say that their inclusion in the American McGee's Alice game, AMA, and the designs for these was kind of haphazard. It never really felt like it made a lot of sense to me, like what they were, who they were, how they were designed. And this is one of the things where the lack of cohesion between design and team probably kind of shows itself, and there's a few places where that happens, and actually we'll touch on this a bit as well. If you remember, there's like the little red demony things that run around the lava pools.
All right, yeah, seem to remember that.
Yeah, so what are they? I mean, how do they have any relation at all to the Wonderland?
There was a lot of stuff in AMA that didn't kind of fit, I guess, at the time.
Yep.
Like there was like robots in there.
There were those sort of rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of happened maybe partly because the team that were working on the game, I'd say one element of it was they felt perhaps, and I don't want to do too much mind reading, but I'm going to try a little bit. I'm going to say that perhaps they felt like they weren't being given enough content. We were producing art and story and concept, conceptual art and stuff like that for the enemies and the design of the world. But also, and they might have felt like, hey, we need more, we want more, we need to fill this world out. Where I may have been sitting there thinking like, nah, this is enough, right? But the other issue, of course, is that when you have a team of artists, what do artists want to do?
Artists got to art.
Artists want to art. So I think that a lot of what happened there was artists wanting to art. And that meant that they would sit around and they'd sketch and they'd doodle and they'd be like, hey, did you know that if I make a flying creature with wings, we can put a moving shader on the wings so that it looks like the texture of all these screaming skulls is sort of sliding creepily across. Ooh. And of course, at that time in the world of video game development, that was pretty freaking cool, like to have a sliding texture on an animated model.
I can imagine it was back then.
Yeah, so all 20 polygons of him. So I think a couple of these characters were the result of artists wanting to art. That's all.
Very probably.
Yeah.
But then again, the game was made back in a time where...
Ye olde time.
I don't want to say that less care was given, but I think that's the wrong way of saying it. But, you know, they just kind of, what looks cool? Didn't matter if it made sense. What can we do?
This is correct.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying that. Certainly, it was an era where there was not the sort of widespread access to the engines and the technology. It was still very ivory tower, meaning that, you know, people who could make games were way off in the distance, and you barely had any concept of the kind of arcane magic that they controlled in order to make pixels appear on a screen. Now, these days, you can literally go and like download 3D model packs, you know, from our good friend Kenny, throw those into Unity or Unreal, fire up a gameplay template, and have your own first-person shooter up and running in a matter of hours. So, you know, people now have the time to kind of devote to being more focused on themes and on consistency in their artwork and so forth, instead of just sitting around being like, look what I can do.
Yep, world's got to be coherent.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyway, so that was quite a bit of a tangent. Apologies for that. What is this? This is swords, which is an air element. And now you might understand why Omri picked 2 flying enemies to represent air.
I get it.
I get it too. And that's fair enough. You know, I don't think I'm going to argue that an air element and swords couldn't be represented by a flying enemy. Now, what do you think about flying enemies?
I probably don't hate them as much as some people, but as long as there is a non-annoying way to deal with them, such as lock-on or whatever, I don't mind so much.
I hate them.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. And so let's think, like the most recent game I played in which we had flying enemies to mess with would have been Gaze Dawn.
Gaze Dawn.
Yeah, Gaze
But
Dawn.
they were only like little like ravens and stuff.
Called criers.
Criers.
And you had to go burn down their nests. But you could waste your time shooting at them.
That's what I did.
But the shooting at them was incredibly non-effective. Now, the best way to kill them, because that game had a bunch of glitches with regards to them, and by the way, makes me think they were probably put in there very late stage. Some a-hole artist on the team was like, why don't we have any flying enemies? Look, I did these zombie birds. And they probably got kind of grafted in there pretty late in development, and people thought, yeah, we need that variety. And I'm here to tell you, no, you don't.
So what was glitchy about them that made you think they were an afterthought?
Did you not kill tons of them because they'd flown into the sides of like bridges, overpasses?
Occasionally you would see
Occasionally,
one just flying into a house.
I killed dozens of them like that. You could actually find places in the game where you just would hang out in some place that caused their flight path to intersect with some invisible wall in the sky, and then you could just sit there picking them out of the sky. And it was, to me, it kind of screamed that this was a late addition to the development, and that they didn't really have a lot of... And by the way, I speak as someone with a lot of experience at throwing untested crap into a game late in the development cycle. So back to the question of flying enemies, though, I am curious to hear what people think about...
don't seem to like them.
Well, Ancient Child Artistry says the bolterfly was okay. See, now, this is a very good point. Not only were the bolterflies a flying enemy, but they were crap because they latched onto you, and then you had to kind of wrestle with them to get them off of you. And that is another thing I freaking hate.
Wrestling.
Yeah, having enemies stick on you, and then you have to smash square to kind of wrestle them off. I hate that.
Right.
Do you not?
I don't mind. It's just part of their attack, really. It doesn't mind whether they shot you from a distance or whether they grabbed you. It's just you got hit.
So I thought that bolterfly artistically was pretty cool. I liked the idea of him being composed of a bolt and that he was flying around like a butterfly. I mean, it was okay. But I think that the two things I didn't like was the fact that they were in the sky. Now, I think you actually could do lock on with them, which made them less annoying, and you could lock on and shoot them down with a pepper grinder, and okay, that part I didn't mind. But if they got close to you, then they would latch on to you, and I hated that. So
okay. Have you encountered flying beasties in Horizon Zero Dawn yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Lucas says, I used an attractor, and then I'd shoot them and take their beaks. Yeah, he's referring to Days Gone and using an attractor. I didn't know that their beaks were really worth it. But anyway, I found that you didn't even need an attractor because they tend to be attracted to you. They want to fly to you and dive bomb you. And if you just hang out in the right spot, they get stuck on the side of things and you can just shoot them. So, yeah.
Not playing it as intended.
What do you mean? They shouldn't have put those in there, though. I mean, by the way, come on. Birds, zombie birds.
Zombirds.
That's just silly.
Zombie everything else.
That's just silly. That's just really silly. Where were the zombie cats? I didn't see zombie cats.
They got eaten by all the zombie wolves.
Maybe. Zombie chickens? I didn't see them. I heard them. Every time the sun rose in that game, you would hear a chicken in the distance. Cock-a-doodle, yeah, wake up. The zombies are going home. But then, what? Where was the chickens? Where were the chickens?
No.
I don't know, too. All right, so what do we have now? We're looking at the swords. They're an air element. They would be flying enemies. I don't really have much to complain about with this other than we design or bring back these enemies in a way that they're not super freaking annoying. That's my main point here.
Yep.
All right.
Like I say, I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with flying enemies as long as there's a way to fight them that doesn't lead to annoyance.
Well, there's a few more comments here from people about bolterflies, and
I'm trying to remember them when I watched your playthrough.
You first run into them right after you pick up the pepper grinder from the Duchess, and there's a kind of forest clearing behind her little house thing. And I'm pretty sure that's the first time you see them, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
All right.
What's old Craig say there?
The bolterflies were a great artistic concept. They were actually fun to fight when I got good enough. And that's a good thing as well. Just up your skill level. And then if you you can beat stuff that you couldn't normally beat, get a good feeling.
Yeah, that's true. Ghost World says something with wings can look utterly gorgeous with a demonic twist in this style. Great leathery black wings, ribbed and torn. Very descriptive there.
Very, very metal.
Ghost World. And I agree with that. I think there have been games where, there's sort of dragons. I'm trying to think what was the game I played where there was a dragon that flew around a lot, but you'd hear it oftentimes before you saw it. And I always thought that was kind of cool, so...
Don't know what that could be.
Don't know. Wendy says she loves my chicken voice.
It's quite good. I enjoyed it.
No. So I think that is about it for swords and a flying enemy. We're probably going to bring back something like the Phantasmagoria. Now, if you're curious sort of where all this is going, we have been doing quite a bit of updating to the Asylum wiki, and it's a big thank you and shout out to our wiki mods and editors, people like Megas and Taylor and Asteria Visual. They're all working on this, and there is going to be a section in here pretty damn soon that covers these types of enemies and the inclusion of tarot as a kind of basis for who the enemies are and where they appear and things like that. So here's a tarot card. That's a very...
What's that one?
I'm having to turn my head sideways. It says Instilibla Unsteadiness.
Is it the 2 of coins?
It does appear to be coins. And is that a 2 or an 8?
I don't know.
Anyway, it says Unsteadiness. And it's a tarot card.
All right.
So this is actually coming, this statement is this sort of idea that we were going to have tarot card soldiers everywhere. And of course, we did have early on the idea that they would be kind of card guards, like you see a card guard here. Now, this is one of the circus card guards, so they're sort of fake card guards. I think where we're going, though, is maybe a slightly different place. We are going to have an implementation of tarot, the concept of tarot, but they may not all of them take the shape of actual cards. And then we would have also just regular old card guards, and we would see those first off. I don't think we'd run into these yet until we get to the Queen's domain, which is representative of anger. And when we got to the Queen of Hearts domain, then we would run into these card guards. And then forevermore after that, like we'd see them kind of scattered around Wonderland. But these are not necessarily tarot inspired. These are just regular old playing cards, as you would have found in the original Alice books.
Yep. Saw someone make a comment about these. Maybe I've got it in my notes. I don't know. They didn't like the zombie look of these particular designs,
as opposed to the previous representations.
I don't mind them. I mean, this for me, this falls into that realm of making a prequel to something 20 years after technology has advanced. You have to kind of let some stuff go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has been a pretty big update in the things that we can do here. So, woo, those cards, those toys are freaking expensive now. See, now I could have been a millionaire if I had just kept a garage full of these toys. These started off selling for $15, and now they sell for $180. Wow.
That's crazy.
Madness.
Cray cray.
That is. So these were the original 50 polygon card guards from AMA, and then that got updated to these guys. Now, I guess my confusion around that comment is these are pretty damn zombified.
More skellified. I guess the new ones, they've got maybe a bit too much skin on their face.
Maybe the concern is that because this is an earlier time period in Alice's imagining of Wonderland, it's maybe feels a little bit out of place that the characters would already be so zombified. Because you can see a progression, right? If I was going to play devil's advocate for the person who made that comment, what I would say was, this was step 1 in AMA, and they've got humanoid faces. I mean, these just look like dudes, right?
Yeah.
But then by the time we get to AMR, they look devilish and demonic, and so
before that picture, they shouldn't look so dead and demonic.
Correct. Maybe they should just be like dudes, like Bob and
regular
Steve.
Dudes.
Yeah,
just wearing like slacks and
with regular
polo
legs.
shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you guys in the chat think about that? Is it kind of out of place to have these guys? They're just like, yo, what's up?
Cool boy band.
Yeah. Is that the complaint, that we go from back in time, this is demonic zombie-faced guys, to sort of just regular card guard guys?
I don't know. Maybe I got that comment down here, and we'll get to it later. I can't remember the full details, but like I said, for me, this falls into the realm of, just let something go in order to have something that looks cool in an update to like game world.
That's a good question. It's a thing we're going to run into a lot in this process, and we've seen a lot, is people wanting, on the one side, realism and continuity and consistency, and on the other side, fantasy, magic, anything goes. It's Wonderland, it's trippy. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you do there now?
Well,
I mean, if you wanted to look, yeah.
Mott Kim likes them zombified, but Ancient Child doesn't.
One-Eyed Skull says, loved the blood. I loved the regular One-Eyed Skull.
So I feel this is one of these things that if we did the straw poll
It
would be 50-50.
Yeah, it would be 50-50. I saw there was a comment recently where someone had mentioned the fact that we're doing this via the concept of crowd design, aka we're inviting you, the audience, in here in the chat or over on Patreon or in a number of different channels where we're doing this, and that we're listening to the voices of the customer. And I'll be the first one to say that, there's that old Henry Ford quote that if he'd asked his customers what he wanted prior to giving them, the Model T car, they would have said a horse carriage, with fatter tires or something, right? They wouldn't have known that they wanted the next thing because they didn't know what the next thing was, right?
Right.
So I understand that, that's an issue, that you can't always ask the customer what they want because a lot of times, it's the responsibility, the burden. It's a massive burden of the creator to imagine the next thing. Anyway, this person in their comment, sort of said something along the lines of, I don't like that you're doing crowd design. And I suppose it was partly for that reason. But they also kind of were saying that, hey, no one's really getting listened to. And the words echo chamber were used to describe it. And I thought, not really an echo chamber, because an echo chamber sort of suggests that everybody keeps agreeing.
Everyone's on the same track. Everyone agrees with everything. Let's go in that direction.
And yet we don't have that at all.
I might know that comment. I can't remember what they complained about. It's like, I don't like this thing that I've seen, which makes me worry about crowd design.
Right.
Yeah, that was like a couple of weeks ago.
Anyway, we are doing crowd design and we are listening to your feedback, and we're going to just keep doing that. So if you don't like it.
But I did say to them, nothing is super set in stone yet. And if something in crowd design makes absolutely no sense, we still have dictatorship powers.
Yeah.
To say that's not happening.
This is true.
So don't worry too much.
We have a super chat.
Ooh, first of the day.
Woo!
Thank you very much, Alice on Elm Street. What if the card guards are more demonic because Shadow Alice is corrupting them? One of the tasks the Queen can give Alice is to restore the guards. Give them skin to put back on their faces.
I don't know that Shadow Alice is running around inside of Wonderland making the card guards more demonic. I'm going to have to think about that. Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out Shadow Alice's role as regular Alice, the character that we're playing. As she runs through this adventure, there has been mention that her shadow will be her ultimate nemesis, and that she's going to have to figure out how to either fight against or integrate that character, and that there may be the idea that as Alice moves through Wonderland, Shadow Alice is running ahead of her and causing all kinds of trouble. Now, we may find that the trouble she's causing, it's one of those kind of I had to make things hard for you to prepare you for what comes next. Sort of she's the one that's acting as Alice's Mr. Miyagi by making the challenges worthy of what's going to come after this adventure. Anyway, we haven't really fully fleshed that out.
I'm just laughing at Shadow Alice.
Wax on.
Shadow Alice being her Mr. Miyagi.
Wax on, Daniel-san. Wax off. Wax on. So anyway, could be. You never know. When the shadow comes off of her face, it's a little old Japanese guy.
Yeah, not seen that movie in ages as well.
It was a
Love
good
Karate
movie.
Kid 1.
Yeah, it was a very good movie. So we'll think about that though. That's my canned response for when something doesn't immediately resolve in my brain one way or another. So let me think about that a little bit.
Okay.
We do have another Narnar 9000, which is actually our good friend Connor.
Thank you for the super chat. Make void creatures in this game quantum/DMT based with vacuous dream-eating mouths, a la the Scream. Hey, it's Connor Carbon. It's my ASMR channel. We know what you look like.
Yeah, we know what you look like here with your ASMR beard. And I actually, it reads when off the screen, it comes out in your voice.
Are you hearing it?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Do you know what DMT is, first of all?
Is it? No.
No. So DMT, it's an extract of a plant, I believe, but when you take it, it sends you off to meet God. And there are people...
I've kind of had a niggling that it might be some kind of drug.
It is. But it's supposed to be like the go to talk to God drug. And even though the experience of it only lasts a short amount of time, people have reported that they feel like they're off in that experience for, months or years. So it's sort of Inception, like time dilation.
Sounds terrifying. Being stuck in this like trip for like years.
It would be for you. But apparently one of the markers, the hallmarks of it, is that people who have been through the trip all report similar things in terms of talking to God or hearing voices from sort of these super intelligent space creatures or whatever.
Ooh.
Who knows? Anyway, back to Narnar's comment.
Narnar.
He says, make void creatures in this game with vacuous dream-eating mouths, a la the Scream. Okay, I guess that I'd be curious to understand what that is. What is a void creature, and how would we render that artistically?
They've got a big old stretchy mouth.
Well, that would be kind of like what we've done with the, not the Boojum, but the Phantasmagoria. It's got a big stretchy mouth. Is that what he's referring to?
Maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm a little confused.
Something similar to that, surely.
We are getting a bit of lag.
Yeah, I think it's better than the last one we did.
Let's just ignore it and maybe it'll go away.
Yeah, we'll not mention it.
Yeah. All right, one more super chat and then we're going to...
Mama Luigi 124. Thank you for the super chat. They say, hey, I'm a huge fan of the games and the story. Might I ask, that's very polite, if there will be any appearances from the Executioner from the second game? If so, what would be done with him?
I think it'd be fun to see him come back. It feels like the kind of thing where you get a kind of a running trope, because we saw him in the second game and Alice stomps on him and that was quite funny. I think having something similar to that would be fun. So yeah, I mean, if we go off of the interaction that we had with him in the second game, then I would imagine that what we'd see in Asylum would be something similar. Like he comes off as unbeatable and quite terrifying. Now I want to be really clear. Like I found that locked camera perspective running towards I hated that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of running into the screen.
And your controls are kind of, they were I mean, they make sense, but just to throw that on the player so suddenly, I don't know. Anyway, we could have him come back, and we could have... It'd be funny, actually, if we found an even wonkier way. Like, you have to run from him, and the controls are even more terrible. Anyway, yeah, I think it'd be fun to have him come back, and thank you for that super chat of the odd amount of 14.99. Mama Luigi 124. Very much appreciated.
It is.
So, I think it is time for yet another contest.
Woo!
What are we giving away again?
That.
Out of the Woods.
Out of the Woods. Could do a down cam, show everyone how shiny it is.
Let's do that. That's what it's there for.
Ooh.
There's Out of the Woods.
Look at it go. And you can even see the camera.
Look at that focus on that camera.
Can we see us?
Hey. No. You got to twist it. No. You clearly don't know how
that's
reflections.
me.
That's you.
Where?
You can tell by how not handsome you are. Oh, no, I'm going to get in trouble for that. All right. So we're going to give away that, an Out of the Woods card game. We want you to spam up the chat with what's the wonkiest game controls you've ever had to deal with.
Good one.
I'm curious to know.
Should I tell you what annoyed me recently?
Yes.
I downloaded from PlayStation Network Uncharted 4.
Ooh.
I've never been a fan because I played the demo of Uncharted 1 and didn't like it.
Right.
So I've never played them. I was looking for something to play and it was on sale for like the equivalent of 100 RMB.
Right.
So who's not going to download that? Loved it. Fantastic. Very linear. Massive fun. The thing that annoyed me is the very last fight in the game has nothing to do with anything you've done for the last 15 hours. The jumps you've made, the combat you've learned, it's an entirely new system.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, naughty dog, what? really pissed me off.
Yeah,
I mean, I was playing it on hard as well, so maybe that annoyed me somewhat. I got past it, but it really stuck out as a why the hell did you do that
Why
moment.
teach the player all of these controls and then take that all away at the
Yeah.
last minute? Yeah. I think the ones I've played that have been the wonkiest oftentimes have been VR, sort of. I remember Surgeon Simulator, and I saw someone mention that. Wendy actually mentions that in the chat here.
Ooh.
Now, I think Surgeon Simulator is meant to be bad controls because it's kind of silly, right? I remember playing that on the Oculus or something like that. There was another one, and it was the Vive, I think the one that came from Valve, where you're doing like robot repair or something. And again, I think that they had to make the controls a bit silly because there was no way to get to good with VR controls. It's going to be wonky and shaky and screwed up. So then I think the designers were just like, right, well, let's just play into that, right? So anyway, what else do we have here? We've got
Spam.
If only Nightbot loved me, said One-Eyed Skull. I thought One-Eyed Skull won something recently.
Probably.
Lucas says I'm mean, but he does it with not great grammar and by not completely spelling my name correctly. Well, Lucas, next time you're going to tell me I'm mean, let's just try to fix that up a little bit, all right? A love me Nightbot, okay. I am bread, says Wendy. I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
It's a game where you play as a slice of bread.
No. Really?
Not heard of I Am Bread.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's supposed to be like quite the indie hit.
I'm going to have to check that out. Going through the keyholes while shrunk. That was sucked, huh? Well, maybe. There's a big comment, and it's all scrolled past the screen there. Oh, well, I lost it. Oh, hey, Mr. McGee, don't you remember Alice Otherlands? That isn't complete, but is okay if you could bring back Alice Otherlands as a Netflix series. That would be awesome to have Alice on Netflix. I'm just curious. No. Hold on a second. How is this a plugin that people have that capitalizes the first letter of every word that they type?
Maybe. No, doubt it.
Okay. Well, I'll let you answer that.
I was going to say, I was under the impression that Otherlands was complete.
It is.
5 years ago.
It is.
So,
but hey, let's not harm that rumor that it's not complete.
Let's keep it going that it never got done.
Yeah, and as far as it being a Netflix series, that sounds great. If you could please put us in touch with someone at Netflix who has access to the checkbook and is willing to write the check and get the show going. Done. We'll be right there making a Netflix series.
Wilted Star really wants us to play The Last of Us.
Ooh, I really want to play The Last of Us.
I played it twice.
Well,
played it on normal, and then I finished it on the hardest setting
and did
because
you
I'm a
platinum
badass.
it?
I think I did.
No, really. I didn't know you liked platinuming games.
I love
never heard that
platinuming games.
Before. Bring it over next time.
I can't.
Oh, right, because it's a download. Well, I'll download it.
And I think I got it on PS3.
Okay. Alrighty. Play The Last of Us. Yes. Okay, Wilted Star, we heard that. Let's roll it.
Roll it.
And I hope Nightbot doesn't give it to Wilted Star. Okay, Gold and Silva. You've just won with your... I can't quite tell what's going on there in your icon. Anyway, you just got a copy of Out of the Woods.
It looks
the
like
card game. It looks like a...
Sonic as a brony.
Yeah, I think
or something.
It is kind of rainbowy brony thing. So Gold and Silva, congratulations. Do scroll down to the description below. You will find a little box containing all of the instructions on how to claim your prize. Please go and check that out. Do it quickly. Don't be late. And we will send you your copy of Out of the Woods.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before we continue on into more art review, because there is still quite a bit of art to look at, I do want to do a very quick shout out to our good friends over at Freaky Fandoms. Now, Freaky Fandoms, they are one of our sponsors, a sponsor via Patreon, in fact. We have two sponsors, but I don't know what the second one's on about.
I emailed them. No reply yet.
Odd. But unlike that other weird mystery sponsor that we don't know what's going on with, Freaky Fandoms, we do know what's going on with. This is our good friends Deborah and Andrew, and they have a podcast, and it is called Freaky Fandoms, and they do a thing every week where they look at movies and video games and culture and art that they love, and then these things go out via SoundCloud, iTunes, Patreon, you name it. Now, I think this is actually from last week. I don't know that they updated this week. Maybe they're on vacation like everybody else in the world.
Except us.
Actually, they are on vacation. I think they traveled over to Europe land, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So there may not be a fresh new Freaky Fandoms, but anyway, that shouldn't stop you from going over and checking out all the previous ones, because this is like episode 113.
Not bad.
It seems to suggest that they've got a lot of content to go and listen to.
I saw this Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's apparently some sort of like major hit. It's like a book series.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard of it before. But apparently, yeah, they're making it into a movie or something now. So, yeah, it could be interesting to see. Wonder what their take on it is. So I'll give their podcast a listen.
Interesting. B Nuts is surprised that we know what a brony is.
Know a lot of things. We're quite nerdy.
We don't sit over here in the underground cave just looking at art and playing with our Cheshire Kittens. We do actually consume a fair amount of culture.
Maybe they just think
the world.
As soon as like the stream ends, we just sort of power down. Just, go like,
just sit here and wait.
Like a week.
Wait for the next stream. Okay. So anyway, where were we? We were looking at art. And we were looking at art of the card guards. So yeah, this is a good question about how we're going to render the card guards. If you have thoughts and feelings on this topic, do let us know. It appears that Omri's kind of sketched out how he views these card guards appearing in the new game as the sort of stitched up version here, and this got a hole in the middle of him. Somebody broke his heart. Sad. Anyway, one of the things that I did like about how he's rendered these is that they're a lot bigger. Now, I like the idea of like massive towering enemies that we get to fight against. Actually, that's one of the things I thought was kind of fun as I'm playing now through, what's that? What's the thing with the metal beastie? Yeah, Horizon. A lot of those monsters look pretty big.
Yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet if you've only just started playing.
I know. I get that sense. Anyway, so yeah, I think the idea of big old card guards could be quite fun.
I think having bigger enemies would also sort of reinforce the fact that she is a lot littler. She's a little girl.
This is true.
So having them towering over her would look cool and be appropriate.
This is very true. So we are seeing quite a bit of issue with our network here. And I mean like pretty serious issue here.
It did okay for a while. It hasn't completely died.
Alrighty. There are a few little super chats coming through here. Lucas is back to correct me on my correction. He says, let me fix my mistake. I meant to say, you are mean American. Martin is very handsome. Well, thank you. That's very sweet.
I'm going to get even more handsome because I've started dieting and exercising.
That's excellent.
So I'm going to be super handsome soon. Just you wait.
My main question, though, is are you giving up on the sugar water and now actually drinking actual water?
Yep.
Okay.
No more sugar water, no more vanilla lattes, just normal lattes and
regular lattes.
So, yeah. Stay tuned. I'm going to be all buff.
Narnar sends along $2 and says,
when am I getting contracted to do Out of the Woods voiceover?
Anytime you'd like. It's a kind of a fun idea to have him read the Out of the Woods book, although it is just fairy tales that are kind of copy-pasted from the traditional ones, so I don't know that anything new would be there. But what am I saying? Of course, we'd all love to hear you reading fairy tales, Connor. Yeah, let's talk.
We would.
Let's see. Okay, I think that's it for Super Chats, so we're going to get back to art review. Now, one of the things that's come up recently and that we're going to have to work our way through, and this was mentioned in this week's crowd design session, is the idea that the Dollmaker, a.k.a. Dr. Bumby, a.k.a. child molester extraordinaire who needs to be pushed in front of a train after being stabbed in the face, he is, of course, a character in Alice's life at the time when Asylum is taking place, and I've suggested that we would have him represented in Asylum in Wonderland as a character we may refer to as the Toy Maker. Of course, in AMR, he was the Dollmaker, and he was pretty damn creepy. Of course, he was the ultimate bad guy that you had to fight against, and he was basically the only boss fight that you had.
Pretty much.
So the idea now is that he would be brought back, or I guess he would appear in Asylum, and that he would take up a position in the train station. Now, the train station is going to be sort of the hub, the central hub of the world that we're going to build. And in that train station would be a shop, and in that shop would be the place and all the things for Alice to purchase weapons and upgrade and buy her dress upgrades and trade her chaos coins and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen the art for the train station?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything new.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over on the wiki. So if you're curious about that, go check it out. This was an image that was done by Sunny. It shows the mock turtle as the conductor of the train station. And so you've got all the trains going in and out here to these little sort of stops throughout Wonderland. Now, we did hint at this in Madness Returns. They weren't really functional. You didn't really use them. But we're saying that in Asylum, you would, in fact, be able to use them. And we're saying that not only would you be able to use them from that central station, but the central station would contain things like the toy shop. And the toy shop is where you go to get your weapons and your dress upgrades and all that kind of good stuff. And this guy is center to that.
But not looking quite like that.
Not looking like that at all. In fact, if you want to hear our discussion on this, go over to, well, I guess you're already on my YouTube channel, but go look up the crowd design session from this week. And I think that was episode number 17. I'm sort of losing track. Is that right?
17? It was 17.
Yeah, so go look up episode 17. There it is. And you will hear us having the discussion about Bumby's appearance in Asylum, and then also about his place in the world of Asylum. So yeah. I'm very curious, though, to hear people's thoughts on that and how they'll feel seeing him. Now, we had some cool suggestions during that stream of, like, allowing the player to avoid using him as the mechanism for purchasing weapons and doing upgrades because, hey, we know who you are and we don't want to deal with you. Therefore, maybe there's a roundabout way of doing that sort of upgrading that doesn't involve him. Yeah.
There's also some question of, can you target him with your weapons, perhaps?
No, come on.
No.
I mean, there's not a lot of games where you can go in and shoot the shopkeeper.
Yeah, a lot of, in God of War, did you try and target Boy?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It doesn't work. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty normal that in those kind of settings you're not allowed to shoot at those types of people. Anyway, so yeah, on that topic of the Dollmaker, if you're interested in that and giving us your comments, then do head over and check out that crowd design session from this week. And yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't mind him coming back, actually. I think it's kind of fun to get back to him. Now, of course, we know at this point in Alice's journey, she doesn't know this, but we, the audience, know that Bumby is the one that's responsible for burning her freaking house down.
Yeah.
This is the Fire Prior, of course. I think if you look closely, you can actually see Richard Pryor in here somewhere.
Is he just in there?
Just in the smoke and flames right there. So continuing on with the elements and with the tarot cards, this is fire.
Wands.
It's also wands.
Okay.
You know what wands are about?
Casting spells.
Yeah, it gets kind of in the Harry Potter
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, what's it say here, Martin?
The suit of wands tarot card meanings are associated with primal energy, spirituality, inspiration, determination, strength, intuition, creativity. Jesus.
And Jesus.
And Jesus.
I don't think Jesus likes tarot cards.
God, it sounds like they represent everything. Ambition and expansion. Original thought. Christ. And the seeds through which life springs forth.
This is exactly how horoscopes work, right?
It is.
The horoscope will be like, something is going to happen to you today. And then so if anything happens.
Look out for that thing.
Yeah.
The suit of wands is associated with the element of fire. Fire is hot, wild, unpredictable, and energetic. It can be creative in helping us cook food or build tools. It can be destructive, like a devastating bushfire or house fire. Fire is symbolic of passion, energy, enthusiasm, and sexuality. It is a masculine element and reflects the drive and willpower of the masculine energy. In a deck of playing cards, wands corresponds to clubs. I mean, there's so much stuff in there. You could literally have an image of anything that would represent the fire of wands or whatever chuff it's called.
Well, yeah. So here we have Omri's interpretation of concept as it relates to wands. And of course it is the burning house. Now he's suggested, and again, this is kind of funny because it does go to Horizon Zero Dawn's ability to like lock on to an enemy and see the little track that it's going to go along. He's suggested that these things would walk these paths, and as they do, they leave a burning sort of border trail behind.
I like it.
And so this could close in around Alice and shoots out torches as ammo.
Yeah, I can imagine like a big burning house on mechanically spindly, stilty legs crawling around the landscape would look pretty effing sweet.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in here that I like. There's a couple things that I'm not such a big fan of. I think we could kind of dig into this a bit. One of the things that came up when I first saw this, it had to do with sort of the nature of its legs and the nature of the wands in general. And I felt like these were a bit generic, just the sort of, I guess they remind me of the big walking around laser eyeball shooting things from War of the Worlds. Right. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Half-Life 2 had some spindly leg dudes, didn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know. This feels a bit generic to me. Like if you were to sort of focus in on this, it's. But I don't know. Maybe he's kind of going where I'm trying to go with this with these elements. Maybe these are what I had in mind, which was matchsticks, and so I went and looked up Victorian matchsticks, and there's actually quite a lot of really nice art around this. And not only that, you know, like this one has a lion's head.
It used to be called flaming fuses.
They did used to be called flaming fusees.
Yeah.
There's like another E in there. Look at that. Fuse-ease. You guys and your superfluous lettering. Like there's not a U in color. It's not color. It's just color.
Color.
Look at you adding an extra E in there for
Probably
no reason.
Yodi Cockney London spelling.
Maybe. Anyway, when I saw that though, I thought, what was it that set the fire? You know, surely Bumby would have grabbed something from in the house, and perhaps, he might have brought something along, but perhaps Alice would have a kind of memory of some sort of relationship with a piece of decoration or something like this, where you've got sort of the antique match holder. So is it possible that her connection to fire and fire in her own home somehow connects to these matchboxes and maybe the match holders, and then we could work on putting some of this to work inside the imagery of that character? So maybe his legs or something are actual matchsticks. And I kind of feel like the idea, I'm sorry, but I would laugh if like I turned a corner and there was a flaming house running at me.
It means cool. Not literally cool, but
if it was like a little house and there was like actual little people trying to go out the windows and screaming.
How big are you imagining this thing?
But that's the thing, it's Wonderland. So she could be standing, like, look, he's done it. He's shown her, she's here taking a selfie, right? Mm-hmm. So he's shown her coming up to sort of like its knees. But that means that the house itself is not really much bigger than she is. Mm. So now imagine little people like hanging out the windows, saying, screaming.
I'm kind of imagining it a bit bigger. Yeah.
That's pretty big, though. And I have to say, this also gets into territory of stuff that I don't like in games, which is having to force the camera up fire at an enemy, right?
Okay.
So this is something to think about. So anyway, my idea here was maybe lower this down a bit, have the legs be matchstick legs, and then maybe we need to talk about what's sat atop the matchstick legs. That's all. I think there's some things to explore there.
Yeah. Callum Gubb.
Hey,
He's
welcome back.
after a long time. He sent pictures of his Alice tattoo to Facebook. Ooh, looking good. Yes, welcome back. Thanks for the super chat. It was good to finally be able to catch one of these again. Got to dart early. Hope the rest of the stream goes well.
Well, thank
we also
you.
hope that.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. Good to see you again. Welcome back, and then farewell. There you go. Yeah, I am curious to hear people's thoughts on the burning house of matchstick madness there, and how that lines up with the fire element and with wands. Do you have a better idea? Do you have something else you'd rather see? Do you like this? Do you think you would be terrified of a burning house coming towards you as an enemy, or would you just laugh about this?
If it was like spewing fire and it was setting the world on fire and it was leaving a trail of fire behind it and it was like homing in on you, kind of scary. Again, assuming it was big.
I mean, if you assume that, okay, it's gonna do damage, right? I'm gonna be afraid of it on a sort of practical level, that I don't like being damaged. I don't want to die. Okay, I'm with you there. I'm gonna see this thing coming towards me, and I'm gonna be like, oh, geez, not this. This thing's gonna kill me. But look, when I'm gonna keep talking about Gaze Dawn, because it just makes me laugh. That every time that he was like, oh no, bear, or it was one of those like the zombie bears. Like I was that they were scary, and not just like they were gonna kill me, but they were genuinely scary. This I don't know. I don't feel like I'm gonna be genuinely scared of this. Maybe I'm wrong.
But I'm scared of houses.
I am curious to hear what people think of that. Would you be scared of a literal burning house chasing you down on legs in the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel Lindsley, thank you for the super chat. For the wands character, maybe use Victorian fire pokers for the legs.
Alrighty.
Not bad.
Fire pokers. Victorian fire pokers even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be Victorian. Yeah, it fits in with the fire theme, but generally pokers aren't on fire, so...
Yeah, I was going to say they aren't in and of themselves. They're relatively inanimate. So I'd be concerned about sort of... I could see them being a part of this. Maybe, you know, they make up sort of the skeleton or something. So yeah, could take a look at that. I mean, there's all kinds of fun Victorian stuff out there. Pretty much you put the word Victorian in front of anything and you're going to get an interesting result. Give me a word.
Bouncy castle.
Bouncy. You didn't have to be poop about it. Come on. That's not going to work at all. No, I meant something like if you were to type in Victorian cat, for instance, you're going to get back pretty silly stuff. I mean, look, don't tell me that the Victorians didn't have fun stuff. Look at that Victorian cat that the woman's wearing on her shoulder. Anyway, I think there's a lot of stuff we can stick the word Victorian in front of, and we're going to get good stuff back. Fire poker could do. We'll see. Right. Here, look, Bella Ghost Factory family is back with her capitalization of the first letter of every word in a sentence.
You shouldn't. No, don't reply to Bella.
I'm just amazed by this. I want to know, does Bella have to capitalize every first letter, or does Bella have a plugin that does that automatically? No?
I don't think it's a plugin. It's just a quirk.
It is an interesting quirk. Oh, well. Right. Any other comments on the burning down of the house, or the house as an enemy? Actually, I like that. So Narnar says, make Flaming House say, Alice, come home, in a garbled voice. See, that's actually kind of fun. And I could imagine that if you were captured by and burnt up by the burning house, it would, grab you and suck you into its maw. And so that would have been a sensation that Alice had. was one of trying to get out of the house, and the house somehow the window wouldn't open, and maybe her dress or her nightgown got caught on something, and being trapped in a burning house. So when I saw that piece of art, I mean, the first thing I was thinking was maybe it's not just like the whole house, but what if it was sort of just a section of the house, like the window chasing after her, and the window is sort of acting as a mouth, a maw, that's trying to bite her.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine if the entire thing, again, if it's quite big and it's on fire, it could have the, what's that, thing, different perspectives.
Bouncy castle?
Bouncy castle. It could have a bouncy castle on fire. No, the YouTube video using
non-Euclidean geometry.
So yeah, if the house was actually trying to get you back inside it.
Right.
So as it got closer to you and opened its maw, it appeared physically bigger the closer it got to you and opening its front door mouth.
I like that.
It'd be quite good.
I like that. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Connor Narnar is that the thing is saying basically come home. And it could be that Alice's representation of this, the matchstick legs, and maybe not the whole house, or maybe it is. Maybe it's like a whole collection. It's a family of burning house bits, like a door, a window, Big Daddy house coming after you, but they're all basically screaming at you, either in like a burning house voice, or in the burning voices of your now burnt up dead family. And they're all saying, come home.
Or in your chicken voice.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. We'll have to figure out how we're gonna shape that. But again, your comments can help to shape that. So if you have thoughts on burning houses or things related to them, comments and chats and all that kind of stuff will work.
They will.
Wendy says she likes how your first thought when challenged to come up with something from the Victorian era was bouncy castle.
Yeah, I wanted to try and make it tricky. I didn't know if they actually had like fabric sewn together bouncy castles.
I think we're going to have to take a few classes on improv, because I do believe that when you are thrown a ball in this type of situation, you're meant to catch it and to throw it back, as opposed to bouncy castle it, if you know what I mean.
I do, but
Yes.
now I'm just thinking of that Family Guy episode where they tried to do improv. Peter Griffin just kept doing his John Wayne impression.
That's basically
Welcome to the Thanksgiving, Pilgrim.
That's basically what it's like doing a live stream with Martin, Pilgrim.
I think they like the discombobulation.
I guess they do. Alrighty.
Hope so.
Speaking of discombobulation, it is time for yet another contest, and we are going to give away yet another copy of Out of the Woods. And there it is on the down cam.
Look at it.
It
all
has
embossed and foiled and shiny.
It has been called Emo Uno by Robert Smith, lead singer of The Cure.
Has it really?
I've heard that. It's a rumor, but you know how things are with Robert Smith. You never
Allegedly.
know. And I also heard that lead singer of the Smiths, Morrissey, he also called it Emo Uno. Basically, all of the old emo stars have played it, and they all think that it's basically Emo Uno. Yeah. So there you go. Get bent, governor, with Emo Uno.
That should be the tagline.
Yes, but we do have to ask a question. So my question is going to be, who is your favorite emo artist? Surely you have one. Do you have one, Font Lord? Bouncy Castle. Say it. Say Bouncy Castle.
Bouncy Castle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Not sure I have one. I was never really into like the emo scene.
Were you not?
Or maybe there are some people I do like who are classed as emo, but I just don't know they're emo.
Right.
People, yeah, I don't know. Name some. You say what yours is, and I'll jump in.
Well, I just think it's funny, that you're working with a guy who's famous for his emo video games and for all the darkness and Satan that goes into all this stuff. And yet, if I try to challenge you, ask you to, think of something from the Victorian era that we might pull up, your first thought is Bouncy Castle. And then if I ask you, hey, yeah, what would be, and I've already given you two examples. You could have just said, yeah, I like The Cure.
But I don't
You don't.
particularly. I
Right.
don't hate them. Never on my radar as something like, I would love to listen to The Cure today.
Right. Yeah, I was quite in the day. I was quite into like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Do you know who that is?
I know them.
Okay, that was actually, I think, there was a band called Crime in the City Solution that I was a big fan of. That was where my first ever tattoo came from, and I was also a big fan of. Have you ever heard the song Bela Lugosi's Dead?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Do you know who Bauhaus are?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So there was a record label called 4AD, and they were quite famous for putting together all of the sort of that wave of a lot of it being British, sort of post-punk, pre-electronic. You had Clan of Zymox, and you had Peter Murphy. The thing that was the Bauhaus was the band that he was in before that, which then splintered off into Love and Rockets. And I mean, there was all this Susie and the Banshees. So I was a big fan of all that stuff. That's back in the day when I actually wore eyeliner and dyed my hair black. And I had a big, long black trench coat, and all the kids thought I was going to come to school and murder, death, kill them. And I didn't do that. So
good.
There you go. And I can see that we have a number of people responding here. Susie got mentioned here.
I am aware of Susie and the Banshees.
Voltaire is another really good one. Emily Autumn, now that's she's kind of a newer generation. And she also, I think, refers to her group as being in the Asylum. Spam.
Sue her.
I think we should. Spam. I didn't really listen to Spam back in the day.
Evanescence. I know them.
The Cure. Not an emo fan, says the real Pimp Cade. Now, I wouldn't have guessed that based off of your username. Oh, boy. So, yeah, The Cure is getting a lot of love. The Smiths, I love the Smiths. I still listen to them today.
Gorillaz.
Rob Zombie is a good one. I don't know that that's goth or emo. Gorillaz is definitely not. Olivia Martin.
I like Gorillaz, though.
I love Gorillaz, but they are not...
Not
Ashland,
emo.
Linkin Park is not emo. Though, I've spent some time hanging out with Mike Shinoda and the guys. I got to go see them and go backstage a few times, and we talked about trying to work on some projects. Fun story, but nothing really ever came of that. I think we put them into Big Head Bash. I think that was about the extent of that.
Yes, they were, weren't they?
Marilyn Manson, another person that I've had some fun times with and could share some crazy stories about. Yes, he would, I think, count as a kind of emo. So there you go. Alrighty,
There we go.
Let us roll it, and it is the real Pimp Cade. I like that username. Come on. Congratulations, Real Pimp Cade. You have won the Emo Uno. So if you could please scroll down into the description below, you will find instructions on how to claim your prize. It does involve emailing us. And so I'm going to be curious to learn what the Real Pimp Cade's real name is. Alrighty, congratulations, Real
done.
Pimp Cade. Martin, I do believe that we've gone through a fairly large amount of the artwork. So it is time.
Done it all?
Yeah. No, there's still stuff. All right, so this was a sketch that Jennifer did for what we might do after the Cheshire Kitten as a plush collector item.
It's pretty cute. Was there a poll or just a general asking of whether people wanted Denial Alice or Asylum Alice?
Right, so we did ask, and I was on the... Of course, I wanted this. I wanted little grungy emo Alice as the next plush doll that we did. And then our insane children revealed that they, in fact, are the real Pimp Cade and that they didn't want the depressing... I actually saw someone say that. I don't want another depressing doll. They wanted the cutesy denial dress Alice. Now remember that denial dress... She's party in the front and burnt family in the back. So I don't know how not depressing she is. But anyway, they wanted Denial Dress Alice. And so Jennifer sketched up Denial Dress Alice for them. Now this might be what we do after the Cheshire Kitten.
Yes. This got me thinking. Are the backs of this plush going to be like pre-distressed with actual flame? Is it going to be all burnt?
Yeah, I can imagine there'd be a factory
literally somebody in the factory with a blowtorch just doing the backs of each one as they come off.
That would be hilarious. Oh, boy. So, yeah, we'll have to figure out how the distressing would be accomplished for this design. But this wasn't a poll. It was just that I posted it up on Patreon, and we sort of asked the question. And what we saw was a huge number of people saying they wanted this, and just a few people saying, hey, the sort of Asylum Alice. And then, so this one. Now, this was the Asylum Alice sketch, and I thought this was really fun and cute. She did a few more, and I think there were some that got a little more detailed than that. But that was the general idea. And I wanted that, right? Because I'm the real Pimp Cade, and clearly our insane children are all just posers. They're not really into the super dark stuff. So yeah, I think that a Asylum dress or an Asylum Alice would be cool. And we did talk about, like, maybe it was one of those flip dolls. So one side, the top was like Asylum Alice, and you flipped it and it was Denial.
Right.
Did you ever play with those?
Oh, yeah, I was constantly playing with my dolls.
Come on, Martin. When you were in your ye olde bouncy castle, you weren't playing with ye olde bouncy dolls?
No, I was a Transformers kind of kid.
I see. Well, so yeah, this is what Jin did up.
Apparently, having a T-shirt with party in the front, burnt family in the back would be quite popular.
That would be good. I like that. So this was the Asylum Alice in the straitjacket. She'll probably never see the light of day. Thanks to our faux emo, femo, insane children. This was something that Omri did up as the place where you would collect the Vorpal Blade.
And we saw this.
We have seen this before. I don't know why this is in the folder. Sometimes I put things in here to remind me to talk about certain things, and this hasn't jogged my memory, so whatever. This is the Cheshire Kitten. I guess we could take a moment right now to
big it up.
Stress that you have from today exactly only something like 10 days.
Pretty much.
To go over and claim this set at the early bird special via Patreon. Do the thing. Join up Patreon. You only need to do it for 1 month. $50 and above will get you the Cheshire set, which has the Chesh, a Cheshire bag, a Cheshire Kitten patch, and a future DLC code for Alice Asylum. So I don't think we've actually ever shown this, because this bag just recently showed up. First of all, just to prove that they really do exist, we did get the embroidered patches where the earring is on the right side, which you can see there. So there is an embroidered patch of the Cheshire Cat's face with the earring on the correct side, though we don't judge. I don't care what side you put your earring on. I've actually had my ears pierced on both sides for a very long time. There is... Martin looks over at me to make sure.
Have you?
I have. So then this was the tag that we did. Now, I think that our insane children saw the process of designing the tag, and I don't think that they've ever seen it actually implemented in the bag. So this is what it looks like inside of the bag. It is the Cheshire Kitten adoption certificate, and it says, "Congratulations." I'll let you read it because you've got a cooler voice.
Okay. "Congratulations on your adoption of a Cheshire Kitten. A word of caution on the proper care of your little furry guide. Cheshire Kitten is not a toy. Unsuitable for urchins under 3. Bathing will result in your death. Cheshire Cat Lair of Curiosity code will be emailed to you at the launch of Alice Asylum. www.mysterious.design."
There you go. So that is the certificate that comes inside the bag, and of course the bag comes with the set. Now this one,
those teeth are looking quite shiny.
Well, this is a problem.
Or is it
though.
fake shiny? I can't tell.
No, it's real. But if you take it away from the camera, then they can't see it, Font Lord. I know that this is beyond your capabilities. There we go. So this is, I guess you call this Mark II, version 2 of the bag. Now you, as Font Lord was just greedily taking the bag away and inspecting, they did put a kind of shiny silvery stuff onto the teeth. But if you look really closely, you'll note that that shiny silvery stuff is coming off onto the bag.
Ooh.
So what happens is when you try to kind of deform the bag, as you probably would do because it's a shopping bag and you're going to take it outside and try to do stuff with it, the paint flecks off.
Gosh darn it.
So we told them, stop that. Don't do that. Don't put flaky paint on the...
Is it all... Did the entire earring used to have that paint on it?
Yeah.
That has really come off.
Yeah, that is, as you would describe it, shonky.
It's proper shonky.
And I don't want to get a bunch of emails from people saying that, hey, the paint came off of my bag.
My bag's really shonky.
So yeah, that is not great. That's shonky. So we've told them, stop that, fix that. And so anyway, that is the bag. It has the paw print. Now you'll note that they did fix the paint on the back. It no longer does the creasy weirdness and gets broken as the previous version did. It's nowhere near as thick as it was, so it sort of hangs in there a bit better. And then the cat, of course, is there. And then, of course, there is the embroidered patches. So as Fontlord said, when you get the set, you will get a patch and focus. Come on, do it. Okay. And you will get a cat. They look pretty cool. He looks pretty cool. He's got tattoos all over the place. He's got an earring. And yeah, and then you will get the bag. But it will not be with the paint that flakes off. We will fix that. And then, of course, there is the the tag inside. So there you go.
So do that.
Do the thing.
Do the thing on Patreon. Thank you.
Thing. Okay. I think it's time for you to start reading those questions.
Is it? Are we out of art?
We're almost there. Now, Daniel Lindsley sends along a super chat. Thank you, Daniel, and says, why not both? Now, I believe this is in reference to...
The Alice plush.
The Alice Insane plush, exactly. So the question about why not do both, that actually did come up over on Patreon. People did suggest, hey, just, build both the Insane one and the Denial one. I think that's also where this idea of like a flip doll, like you could flip it upside down. And yeah, some people did say, hey, make them both. We might do. It's possible that it could be a set that has them both, or it could be that we do Denial Alice and then later on we do Asylum Alice. We have said that the Dollmaker toy maker shop in the train station could be the place where you find all these things.
Yep. Got them up on the shelf behind him.
And it could be that he's sort of making them like voodoo dolls.
Ooh.
I don't know. Maybe we're going to have to come up with a story
Right.
that would work with that. Yeah. Let's see. Oh my God, Martin was a Transformers kid. There you go. Who is his favorite character? Say Bouncy Castle.
Bouncy Castle.
Was that the ice cream truck that transformed into a bouncy castle?
It was an actual bouncy castle that transformed into a robot. It was all kind of floppy.
I see. Alrighty.
Jazz was my first Transformer.
Mine was... So of the ones I liked the ones that turned into jets. And so I think it was Jet Scream. Was that one? Starscream. But that was actually a Decepticon. But I always felt that the Decepticons were much cooler than the Autobots.
Yeah, jets seem a little cooler than cars.
Yeah, pretty much. Seafoam Inmate 20 says, doing an Alice doll that you can flip inside out would be amazing. Had a doll like that when I was a kid. It was a person, then you flipped it out and it was a fish. Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay.
I did have some flip dolls like that as a child, and I do remember they were things like that. It was like one side was a fireman and you flipped it and it was a cop. And it was like they had all kinds of flip dolls like that.
Right.
So,
for me.
You had Transformers.
Too busy having robot battles.
There you go. All right. I think we're good. We've probably caught up on all the super chats.
Maybe.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, Narnar. Narnar's back. Thank you for that. Can you ask fans if they'd want an AMA based on ambience videos on YouTube? Example, ASMR rooms. Could be Patreon reward, then public. I'd art direct them for you.
I know that ASMR videos do get lots of views, so sure, maybe there's a way we could combine some of the stuff we're doing with some of your voice, and that would get us some more views. Let's talk about it.
They're kind of odd. My sister's into them. I forget the name. I think she's one of the most popular ones. Got like Fox in her name or something, and she's like caressing the mic and stuff. It's kind of saucy. But yeah, also kind of weird.
Yeah, I've watched a few. I can't say I really get it. I prefer to watch videos on culture and things that I'm learning about, so don't know. But yeah, Narnar, you are welcome to come over and send us an email or find a way to chat with us.
Come over. Come to Shanghai.
And talk with us about how to get your voice into some of the stuff we're working on. That's totally fine. Thank you for the super chat. All right, do those there. Comments and questions, please.
Okay, what have we got? This was from the Flying Enemies post over on Patreon. Chris Angelico says, as a PC player, I never really developed a true hatred of Phantasmagoria or the Boojums, although both are quite annoying. But even on Nightmare difficulty, they died fairly quickly to the thrown Vorpal Blade. Maybe the best way to address the problems is ship a free mouse and keyboard with every copy of Asylum sold. Did
Because
they die
people
quickly?
What's that?
Well, I guess, like, you know, mouse and keyboard is the control scheme of the master race.
It is.
And therefore is more better than all others.
But as it relates to flying enemies,
Probably easier to target something
of course
flying.
because you have mouse look and you're able to kind of scan around the zone. This is my problem when you're on a console controller. You know, because console controls for cameras, there's a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? How it starts slow and speeds up.
Acceleration?
There's acceleration on there. And then a lot of times you'll have snap to things in the view. Anyway, you can get all mixed up trying to lock on to flying baddies when there's guys on the ground. Whereas with a mouse look game, you just have a reticle. There's no snap. There's no nothing. And you just look at it and shoot. Great.
Yep.
But we don't have that on console.
We don't.
Before you move on.
Rumble Tumble.
We missed Rumble Tumble's Australian $2.99.
Thank you for that. Will you hire fans to do some voice acting?
We'll hire fans to do some
I
voice
guess my
acting.
brain auto-corrected it.
Yeah. Yes, we've talked about this, actually. We've said that we want to get the insane children not only to potentially do like voice work, but also to write little backstories for the insane children that we find in the game, because we've said that we'll have places where you're able to put written content like the Chaos Coins into the game. That's already a done thing. So now, you know, the idea that we extend that to other items in the game. Now, we had talked about, like, could it have been that the Cheshire Cat or one of these other things we do comes with a place where you write a backstory for your insane child?
I thought that was in the train station, like in the books there or something.
But yes, Rumble Tumble, first off, sorry we missed your super chat. I did notice you mentioning that. Yes, we will try to get some of the fans to do some voice acting. I think that's a fun thing, and I think it's fun also to have everyone write little bits of content that then ends up into the game hidden amongst different items in the world. So yes, let's do that.
All right.
Let's make sure that I've not missed any other super chats. Oh, there's Narnar. Okay.
Narnar.
We've already done Narnar. There we go. Alrighty.
Okay, anything else?
Keep
Right.
going.
Wendy J. The first thing I thought when I saw the concept of the flying things was, oh God, not those things. People seem to really have like a bee in their bonnet about these flying beasties.
Don't say bee. Those are flying things.
Oh, no. Logan Massey says we could have a lock-on feature for the flying enemies, so make it easier to target them by only having to hit them once in the air, then they fall, and we wail on them.
Well, I mean, the problem that I've found with lock-on in general is just like what I just described, is that it's fine. I mean, I'm sure when you test lock-on in the vacuum of just you and that one enemy in an arena, it's great. But then the moment that you have, you know, it's never like flying enemies appear just one, right? Whenever you see flying enemies, always, for some reason, it's like, hey, let's put a swarm of these in the game and send those off to beat up on the player. So now your lock-on mechanic gets cluttered up with the fact that there's several of them. And then, oh, hey, by the way, why don't we throw a couple of, like, you know, ground-based enemies in there as well?
Yeah.
And now suddenly you're fighting the camera to decide what to lock onto first, and you lose all hope of strategy, and before you know it, you're just chucking grenades and running away in the other direction, right?
Yeah, so I guess this is something that would be found in playtesting. You know, if there is no lock-on and people are genuinely hating the flying enemies, they can be tweaked. They could be slowed down, they could be made easier to kill. You don't necessarily need a control system to beat something, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those things. You know, everything is a trade-off, and I think that the trade-offs that you're forced to make when you have to look at flying enemies, there are no really elegant, no really good ways to get that done. So I don't know. We'll poke around on it and see what we can do.
Poke around.
Yes.
Okay, these comments came from the Creepy Cups post. I had it over on Patreon. Sure set. This was not about the cups. It said, this version of the Queen looks disgusting. Is there a picture of the Queen on that post? I love the cups that Omri did, especially how they're strapped to the machine legs. Reminds me of the straps you see on a straitjacket. I guess they do somewhat.
Well, they should, because they're all coming out of the asylum. So
Yeah.
almost everything's going to have that kind of feel to them. As far as the Queen that's being referred to there, I believe that's because I mentioned that the next place we're going to explore for crowd design is going to be the Queen's domain. And in the Queen's domain, of course, there is the Queen. And so she's got this throne. And so Norman and I think Omri worked together to meld pieces of both Omri's design for the Queen herself, or I think that's Norman's design for the Queen, and then Omri's design for the environment. And of course, in this, you see, for instance, she's chopped off the head of her king, and she's also got Alice's rabbit in a cage, and she's also got a bit of maybe tentacles growing out from underneath her dress there. Yeah. If you look closely into her mouth, she is mechanical. Yeah. And I think there was some mention, some reference to the idea that perhaps this is a sort of a Waldo. It's not real. It's an automaton, or it's something that's being controlled from behind the scenes by whatever remnant or vestige of the Queen still remains.
Okay.
So we are going to get into this, specifically this area surrounding the Queen, her castle, her domain, and of course the interactions that Alice has with her.
I do like that pic. So the original by Norman was black and white, and Omri colored it in?
Yeah, so Norm doesn't usually do coloring.
But combining those two people together, I think this looks fantastic.
Oh, it looks great. It looks really, really good. So I do think we're going to be, as I said in that Patreon post, we're going to be getting into the meat of a lot of the characters and the sort of narrative that Alice engages with in Asylum. So in the stages prior to this, say in Chaos, which is where the house is burned down, or say in Denial, where we're really just getting her spun up, like she's just starting to learn about her movements and about her fighting and sneaking capabilities. It's not until she transitions into the Queen's domain, into anger, that it's on, right? Like she's then fully capable, fully powered up Death Star, and she can really go and wail on stuff. Now, of course, right as that happens, she's going to have this encounter with the Queen. The Queen is going to kidnap the rabbit who has been her guide up to that point, and she's going to be sent off to do some of the Queen's bidding, which involves going and having a confrontation with the Mad Hatter. Anyway, all that needs to get fleshed out, and it's a good place to do it because it is covered in flesh.
Lillian West just super chats us to say all the art is looking amazing.
It is looking
which
really good.
It is.
Yeah.
Well spotted, Lillian.
But that all came off the fact that I think, who was it, Rachel? Rachel said she didn't like the look of the Queen.
Chaussette said that version of the Queen looks disgusting. But maybe disgusting in a good way, like, you've done a really good job with that picture. She looks terrible.
Could be. I mean, she is sort of at the, as we have a quote from the previous game, she is at the heart of darkness, right?
Okay.
And I think that in this telling of the story, we have suggested that she is more aligned with the feminine chaos side of the story, and that the chess queen, that is the red queen, is more on the side of masculine and order, and so this queen should be all kind of beefy and wet and disgusting. I mean, that's definitely in line with the role she's supposed to play inside of Alice's mind. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a critical role, by the way. You can't reject this type of stuff. You've got to eat your meat, or you can't have any pudding.
All right. What else we got here? Bryce Thompson gives a welcome to the new inmates. That's very nice. And suggestions: the Goblet Goblins, give them more of a goblin look. Like in Madness Returns, I loved fighting them second to the card guards. Maybe have goblins in tea armor, I guess, instead of just like the cups. Second, anger. Maybe have Alice as White Rabbit a prisoner to the Red Queen, which we just saw. Having her being raged at the Queen and personifying as the fire. And in the end, the Red Queen saying Alice created her. Okay.
Well, I think that comment, it makes sense that all of the things that we're seeing here and the characters, they are an extension of the emotions Alice is experiencing, that she's struggling with. And I don't know that at the end of this, once we have defeated the Red Queen, it doesn't necessarily mean that Alice has rejected or defeated anger. Anger has its place. Anger, and I think I wrote about this a bit in the Patreon post where we talked about the Queen. I said that anger is useful in that it's sort of got energy behind it. It's the other side of love. A lot of people would think like the opposite of anger is love, or the opposite of love is anger, when in reality the opposite of love is inaction. It's entropy. It's doing nothing. It's being idle. And so that was what this post was largely about, was the concept of Alice going not only to fight off or face off against the Queen and to confront the manifestation of anger, but I think at the end of this to walk away from this anger with something in hand that she can use. And so I had said here that, we have to ask ourselves, what is driving Alice's anger? Your family's just been burnt down and you're locked up in an asylum. Who are you angry at? Especially when you're a 13-year-old girl. How do you resolve that anger? And I said here that in American McGee's Alice, in AMA, at that period in her life, she actually has grown up and matured enough to direct the anger at herself, along with her guilt and her sadness and a lot of other emotions. But at this stage, when she's only 13 years old, that anger being directed at herself, I think would be wrong of us to interpret it that way. So, because you have to be a bit more mature to accept the role you play in these kinds of disasters. So I'm thinking this is a kind of rage against the machine. It's everyone's fault, and so she has to. She wants to see the whole thing burn. Everybody, everybody outside, everybody inside. And I think that's kind of typical of people at this age, when you're sort of 13, 14 years old. But yeah, this is something we're going to have to dig into a little bit. So hopefully people in the chat and our insane children, we can explore this and figure out how to best represent that in the world.
Okay. Super chats came in from Narnar. Thank you. Careful about goblins. There's new movements speaking out against inherent anti-Semitism in fantasy goblins.
What?
Can't we have anything nice in the world?
Is that real?
It wouldn't. I've not heard it. I mean, We live in a world where everyone gets angry at everything for any reason, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Movements speaking out against anti-Semitism in goblins.
So if anyone sees a goblin in a fantasy movie, they rage at it because they think it's anti-Semitic.
Does that mean that like the goblins in Lord of the Rings are supposed to be? I mean, I know that about a year ago there was something, or maybe it was 6 months ago, I don't know, because this crap like happens so much, you know, outrage culture. It's like it's moving so fast, and there are people outraged about something new every day. And I remember there was outrage around Lord of the Rings, and that it was somehow like Nazi-ish. I mean, of course, everything's Nazi-ish, but it was somehow was about like master race. I don't want to say some of these words because I know that YouTube will demonetize the video, so we have to be careful. But the idea that Corvid Core, I've typed that in, but nothing's coming up. But why? Come on.
Outrage culture. What can I be angry at today?
Outrage culture. It's like every single day something new to be angry at. I'm actually surprised that no one's pointed this flamethrower at us yet, and I'm sure that it'll happen. It'll happen. People will be coming and bothering us about our representation of characters in the game, or of the age of the character, or the masculine, feminine. Who knows?
Something will happen, I'm sure, as it is wont to do.
All right.
Well, let's go what we've got here. This one from Dana, or Dana, kind of ties into the anger thing you just mentioned not long back. I like very much where you're heading with the development of the structural themes. I'd like to input my grain of salt. It's about anger, that most times what actually lies beneath it is grief with the clothes of anger. So that justifies the importance of this theme a great deal. Maybe you can play around with that.
Yes.
Yeah, we've kind of been mentioning that already, but yes. Yep. Awesome, Dana. Jacob Michael. The setting is nice. Love the idea of anger as a theme. Hope we get to see Alice expressing that sort of anger in this part of the story. Neutral towards the Queen's design, as long as we get to see a rendition of either Alice or Lizzie at some point as one of the two queens. Maybe both. As I previously mentioned here on Patreon. So,
all right.
I can see a lot of people wanting to see Lizzie.
Yes, there is a big interest in her. I'm not sure why it is that people are as curious about her as they are, but she does come up. Maybe it's because they're not given a lot of detail on her. So that is, becomes attractive to people, that they want to know more about the thing that they're not given a lot of information about.
Maybe.
Could be.
Ava Marie, the cups and the card guards look really cool. Instead, I suggest we tinker with a more general anger against the world theme. I think that's a good idea and way more childish and would fit her age better.
That's what I said we're going to do.
Yay. And Austin Cook. I can see Alice being mad at the world in general, trying to find someone to blame, destroying everything in her path, not caring who she takes down in her path for revenge. Seems everyone's on the kind of same page about this thing.
Yeah, I think that there's something in there. I think having, regular Alice chasing after Shadow Alice, and of course we think that, Shadow Alice is the one who went forth into battle, taking sort of the darkness. There could be something around regular Alice sort of being a bit unhinged and brutal and nasty. And at the end, she's been feeling quite guilty and off about just how awful she's being. And it could be kind of interesting to have it be the dark aspect of her, Shadow Alice, who comes back and says, hey, you have to get right with me. You have to integrate me properly in order to, be healthy and balanced with respect to that murderous nonsense that you've been doing throughout this entire adventure. So I think there's something there. We still need to work on it a bit.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Tarot Fool post that was up on Patreon. We're going to do an FAQ about this later. But Kirsten Crabtree says, ooh, would you consider designing a tarot deck? I would love to add an American McGee tarot deck to my collection of decks for readings.
Yeah, so we are working on this idea. I think many of you know. In fact, there's going to be a place somewhere in the game where we take that Priscilla, the fortune teller, which you just saw on the page there. You'll see that she's actually got a kind of shop somewhere in the game. This may be inside of the circus world. So this isn't, it's a work in progress Omri's doing. Now, I like a lot about this. So first of all, I love that there's this sort of subtle hint at the tentacles.
Is this Omri?
Yeah.
Huh. I would have sworn it was Jen.
Is it?
It looks like Jen's.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Well, Jen's in the chat. This was added yesterday by, I don't know.
Huh. Jen, let us know.
You'd think it says who added this yesterday.
Maybe somewhere.
It doesn't, though. Maybe it is Jen. Okay, well, whoever did this, maybe, yeah, because it's got cutesy faces on the shelf there. Anyway, I love this image. I like how the tentacles are subtly referred to here in the bottoms of the curtains.
I do like that.
And we've got the Jabberwock wings hanging here. It's all pretty cool. There's a lot of combination of elements. And, of course, there is the alchemy symbols on the floor. So this is fantastic. That's from Jennifer. Sorry, Jennifer. I don't know. You guys are all so good with your arting that it's difficult sometimes to tell apart who's doing what. So this is a fantastic setting, though, and it does provide for us a space for bringing the world of tarot into Asylum. And, of course, then once we've done that, we can bring tarot back out of Asylum. So that goes to the question that was asked by our insane child there. Yeah, we do want to make a tarot deck, a physical, actual thing, and we want to release that to the world. So you will see that a lot of the work that's getting done right now artistically could end up helping to inform what those tarot cards look like. So if you're interested in that stuff, stay tuned. This is another poster that's getting worked on. Now this, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of Omri's. And again, it's got some of the elements. It's got satanic gults. It's got satanic goats. And it's got all kinds of alchemy imagery. And of course, this comes from the realm of the circus. It's the Tweedles. So all of this stuff will get kind of looped back together and will feed into that tarot deck set. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, yeah, tune in, share your comments with us, and we'll try to get something cool made.
Taylor Goen. There's a lot of talk here about the dogs in the full thing, and the killing and hurting of animals in games.
Yeah.
As long as you make the dogs hellish enough, players won't have a problem with them. Take the beasts from Bloodborne or the dogs in Resident Evil, for example. They were still very much doggish, but they had a demonic presentation that made it didn't feel like you were slaying your neighbor Fido.
Well, I was surprised by one bit of feedback we got where somebody said, we ought to be able to kill dogs. Killing dogs is tantamount to freedom of expression, and we shouldn't censor our dog murderous intentions.
Was it from them?
It might have been. And so I kind of talked with them a bit offline, and I said that, look, the reason why dogs and killing dogs may not end up in Asylum is because ultimately Asylum is my game. It has my name on it, and a large, portion of the decisions being made are going to be coming from me. And I don't like killing dogs in games. Now, I want to be really clear. If a dog needs to be killed, I'm going to effing kill it, okay? If a dog comes up to me in a game and knocks me off my wicked motorcycle and into the dirt, I'm going to get up and I'm going to murder, death, kill that dog to super death, and then I'm going to strip it of its meat and sell its meat at the market. I don't have a problem doing it because, it's a video game, but I don't want to do it if I don't have to. And I also don't want to put it into my game just because somebody out there says, freedom of expression, First Amendment doesn't exist unless you've got dog murdering in your game. I don't know, man. Go play Dog Murder Simulator if that's what you're into, that's not what this game's about. So
You do you.
yeah, I don't care. You want to kill dogs, kill dogs. I mean, there's games for that. I prefer to pet the dogs. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the fact that I collected the little squeaky toy in Gaze Dawn, and then at the end, when Boozer is hanging out with his little puppy, you can give it to him, and he goes, squeak, squeak.
Yep, I did the squeaky toy thing.
It made me smile. I don't want to kill dogs. Come on.
Sarah Dam. Say, the Fool and Tarot card enemies sounds awesome, as long as it makes sense to the story and plot of the game. Do love the art interpretations that would come along with these new elements and would maybe make the physical cards more attractive too. Well, awesome. We're happy that you're on board with the direction stuff that's going, Sarah.
That's great.
It is great. Oh, I've not seen that pick in a while.
Yeah, Norm has continued detailing it a bit.
Okay.
We don't know exactly where in the game he's going to go just yet, but there it is.
Okay.
I did see somebody, Ghibli Girl says, not to be negative, but why so many circus posters? There's only going to be that one, and we're finished. So why so many of them, though? I don't know. I think that they're fun. I'm not really sure.
And they look great when they're printed.
Yeah, they do look great when they're printed.
Empress Arcana sends some feel-good vibes for Lulu, firstly, and says, absolutely loving the tarot enemies concept. I am a sucker for symbolism. Couldn't have guessed with that name. And when tarot is thrown into the mix, it always excites me. Incorporating symbolism of the Fool sounds awesome.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, Lulu's been a bit under the weather, hasn't she?
She has been extremely sick. I did mention this a little bit over on Patreon, that she recently had to go to the puppy hospital, and she actually ended up getting some pretty serious surgery done. They found some sort of tumorous thing growing in her digestional tract, and that had to be removed, and so she was in the hospital for, I don't know, probably a good week or so.
Yeah, I think so.
And now that she's back home, she's on bed rest, and she's lost a lot of weight, and she's just not looking like her usual old fun self. So yeah, it's been very, very stressful around here dealing with that, but hopefully she's going to be better now. So big thank you to everyone out there who has sent along your kind wishes. I mean, this is one of the reasons, it was kind of an inopportune time for someone to come along and say to me that they thought it would be good to have more dog violence in my games, when my actual dog was in the hospital on the verge of death. So yeah, no more dog violence, please.
But yes, there was a lot of well wishers in this post.
Right.
But not just Empress Arcana.
Yeah. I do notice our old friend Alicia Crow, who I believe is the literal reincarnation of Alice Liddell.
I believe that Alicia is.
She's saying that this is making her sick, and she's having panic attacks again. Thanks. I know that One-Eyed Skull has mentioned that Alicia is on drugs. That's possible. I mean, I don't know if she was reincarnated. Anyway, let's see. She's talking about Alice Liddell being the Antichrist. I never heard that before.
I've never heard Alicia Crow say anything crazy before.
No, never. She's never said anything bizarre at all, much less the fact that she's the literal reincarnation of Alice. But she is concerned about the goat, the pyramid, and the one-eyed, all symbols of the occult. Yeah, Alicia, they are. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you design bad guys in video games or movies or books, you usually want to make it really clear that they are evil. So what we do as a rule is we'll put dark and scary tattoos on them, and maybe we'll give them an eye patch and give them crazy hair
and a British accent.
A British accent and a black Range Rover. You know someone is the devil when they've got a British accent and they're driving a black Range Rover. So this is the set dressing that is sometimes necessary to communicate things about a character without the use of exposition. See, exposition is that crappy thing that happens when a character looks right at the camera and says, "G'day, governor. I just want to let you know I like to kick dags, and I like to set children on fire. So I'm very evil, yeah.
Is that Terence or Philip that's
both.
saying that?
That was satanic Terence and Philip. That was Satan Philip and Satan.
Okay.
But Alicia, one of the things is that we try to do this thing called show not tell. Do you know what show not tell is?
It's be subtle with your exposition.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want characters going around having to tell people that they are evil and wicked. You want them to show that they are evil and wicked. So one of the ways that we do that is to put all the satanic-y, scary stuff on our bad guys. So like, for instance, this guy, oops, this guy, he's got black goo coming out of his eye holes. And I think that the reason is we want people to know that he's a bad guy. So there you go, Alicia. Learn something new every day.
A free lesson.
Free lesson in show, don't tell. All right.
Jacob Michael, again, did we already do one? Yeah. The Fool looks like it's coming along nicely. Be interested to see the enemy adapt as Alice gets stronger as the game progresses, a way to show its theme recurring. Cool combat mechanic would be if the Fool... Combat mechanic.
Combat. Did you say combat mechanic?
I don't think so.
It sounded
you just
like
got
it.
butts on the brain. How the Fool will phase through the floor and appear and disappear, having him fade through this, with the same animation through the air, making him invisible to Alice while he continues to attack. I hate invisible enemies.
Yeah, well, we had disappearing, reappearing enemies in Madness Returns, and do you remember those?
No.
So those
Show
were,
me a picture of the invisible enemy.
They were... I don't know if I can do that, but they did phase in and out, and so they were these guys. Now I thought that the art for these was fantastic. I really liked
There's a big picture of that up on the Spicy Horse wall, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. So I really liked these characters in a lot of ways. I don't feel like they lived up to this. If I remember, this Ghost Sailor image was done by one of our... Was it Philippe was the artist? I can't remember, but I don't feel like the in-game realization of these was all it could have been. And they did. They liked to disappear and reappear. Right. And I found that to be maddening. I think, in fact, if you remember when I was playing the game, they killed me more than a few times, and I might have gotten angry and like smashed a keyboard or thrown a controller or something. By the way, using Brave with safe search turned off, maybe it's on now, but the other day I was doing that, and I'm glad we don't live stream those results because people do some really creepy stuff with Alice.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, so disappearing enemies, they're right up there with flying enemies as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, there's some disappearing enemies in the evil within that can just
Get
chuff
bent.
right off and get bent and jib it up. We're changing tack somewhat. This is about makeup. Hannah Young talking about makeup. Why not make mini palettes that are dedicated to each of the stages, or one large palette called the Chaos palette, which has shades for each stage you go through, and name each shade around the dresses. Yellow called Denial, etc., etc. For palette references, look at the Morph brand, which I think Yenny probably has already done.
She has been looking at that stuff, and for those of you that may be a bit confused by what we're even talking about here, I don't know. I mean, it did get a huge amount of reaction from... I was actually really literally shocked by just what a big reaction it got. But if you're confused about what we're talking about, my wife is working on a collection of makeup. I don't think I can make this display properly. But anyway, she did a presentation that shows what makeup would look like if it were done as inspired by Alice and the Alice series. Hey?
What? Brave doesn't view?
There it goes.
Oh.
And so that looks like this. And so we have had a tremendous amount of feedback on this. The idea being that the various dresses that Alice wears would be inspiration for color palettes. And this is not my forte, but it is Yen's forte because she's a fashion designer and she likes makeup. And we have done some makeup factory visits, and we are kind of putting together the plan for how this would come into fruition. So yeah, all the feedback is good.
Everything Miko says that makeup live stream was so amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear
It had
that.
amazing lag.
It did have very bad lag. But yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff getting worked on here. If you're interested, go check out. There was a live stream that somehow managed to be 2 hours long, purely dedicated to this concept. So yeah, go have a look. Give us your feedback. Good stuff.
So this, I believe, is the fellow. I think it's a fellow you were talking about. Gep. Shadowy enemies are more fun anyway, but your reason for choosing them over more realistic animals I can't agree with. I guess we shouldn't be allowed to fight or kill anything in a video game, guys.
Yeah.
You kind of answered that already.
This is true. Yeah.
And last but not least, from my list of things, Samantha Gebby. Again, says all their love to Lulu. I think that when Alice first encounters the Fool, she can only damage him when he's fully visible. Makes sense.
Right.
He should have a tell that he's about to become visible, maybe a laugh, so Alice can either dodge, parry, then attack. Same with the dogs. They could howl, bark before they attack you. Enemies should indeed telegraph moves. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just going to get hit.
Well, and
You've
that's
gotta learn
exactly
the pattern.
That is exactly what happens with the damn dogs in Days Gone. Is that you're just minding your own business, and the next thing you know, you hear "Rah!" and then you've taken damage. And I actually found that in that game, sorry not to harp on this, but I really hate those guys. I took more damage more often from the damn dogs than I did from anything else in the game, and I didn't want to kill them. Annoying.
Because
Very,
they
very
knocked
annoying.
you off your bike, or because you were hiding in the bushes and they snuck up behind you, scared the crap out of
Who
you.
knows? All right. So Lucas has pointed out the fact that we are now at over 2 hours and 20 minutes into this live stream. It is time for our last giveaway of the day. It is going to be yet another copy of Out of the Woods. Now, I have timed out our good friend Alicia because while there is not actual satanic imagery in Alice Asylum, this is all of the devil. There's tons of devil in this box, so do be careful when you open it because the devil will spill out all over the floor, and I think the devil does stain. I'm pretty sure.
You can't get it out of carpets.
You can't get it out of carpets, no.
Right.
So when you open your copy of Out of the Woods, be careful because it does stain. Anyway, in the comments, please do spam up. Do you want to do one, or you?
What's your favorite representation of the devil in movies?
Ooh, that's a good one. Wow. Where'd you come up with that?
My questions are always good. I
No,
don't know
they're
where you've got
not.
this
No,
reputation of them
no,
being
they're
crap
not.
from.
Also, I want to point out that all of the people who won today, are we shipping those out of here, or are we shipping them out of Shenzhen?
Shenzhen.
Oh, never mind then. I shouldn't add things to the... All right, yeah, anyway, you'll get an Out of the Woods game. So do let us know who your favorite representation of the devil was in film. Whose is yours? Which is
No,
yours?
I'm kind of thinking about in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. They met the devil, and he sort of tormented them for a bit, so they had to they play death for their lives. He wasn't in the movie very long. He's a big guy with a big lever that pulled chains and crap around.
I think so. I know there was one in, what was the Keanu Reeves movie where he's like a stock trader and it's played by
Pacino?
Pacino.
Yeah.
He was kind of the devil. I liked him. He was pretty cool. There is, the Something Wicked This Way Comes movie, which is based on the Ray Bradbury book. And I can't remember the name of the actor, but I thought he was pretty good. There's been quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually right now watching this movie Taboo, and the main character is referred to as the devil just because he freaks everybody out so badly. So it's pretty funny to see him running around, and he's just like a dark kind of, I guess like a heavy guy, everything, the way that he talks, the way that he dresses. I don't think he's literally the devil, but he's pretty devilish as far as these people are concerned.
Got a lot of people saying Lag is their favourite.
Lag is the devil.
Some Legend. Was that actually the devil in Legend?
Tim Curry was... Surely he was kind of like... I'm pretty sure he was right up there in Legend. Is he still alive? Can't remember. But he's really good in that movie. And that Brian Ferry song called Is Your Love Strong Enough is one of my favorite.
It's very good.
Favorite songs from a film ever.
Man, those horns.
They were pretty good. Now, it was Tom Cruise as the hero in that, was it not?
It was.
Yeah. That's a fun movie. It's a very, very fun movie. He was a pretty damn good devil, but he's like just straight up the devil, right? So I don't know. Why does this search result say that Obama totally looks like... What is wrong with the internet?
I don't know.
Boy, I don't understand sometimes. No wonder people are constantly outraged.
Yeah. What else have we got in the chats? What are people saying?
Let's see.
Spam, lag, goat.
Oh, have you played this yet?
During my looking for something new to play, I was going to pick up Nier Automata. Again, I played the demo and I wasn't impressed, but people are constantly bigging it up.
Me too, I hear it all the
But
time.
it wasn't on sale.
Ah.
I wanted to find something cheap and cheerful.
Well,
That's why
I tell you what,
Uncharted.
Mr. Curios, I will be playing this next. Because, yeah, I'm hearing it all the time as well. I'm hearing that it's really good. And so, yeah, this will be next after I finish playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Something in your head that can't remember that.
Well, look, I called Days Gone Gaze Dawn, so there's just it's there, it's on the tip of my tongue, it just wants to come out very wrong.
Okay.
All right.
South Park,
South
the devil
Park
in South
Satan is
Park.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bumby. Ooh.
There you go. Alrighty.
Roll.
That's good. Here we go. Roll it, and it's Xylus Laydell. I know that Xylus has won before.
For sure.
But there you go, winning again. So... congratulations. All you need to do is scroll down to the description below. There is, in fact, a set of instructions there on how to claim your prize. It's very easy. It's even kind of peasy. Yeah. When you do receive, do try to remember that the devil does stain, and be careful. Take care with your emo uno.
Robot Devil from Futurama.
Oh, Robot Devil is really, really good. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. I don't know how this live stream turned out to be so long, but it was a lot of fun. As
worried at the beginning, weren't we? We just didn't have much to show off and stuff, and it's gone on.
It was fun. So, and I have to say, our lag was nowhere near as bad today. I think we did figure out that we just need to find a better VPN server to connect to.
It was all right.
As usual, we love you very much. We very much appreciate all of the support that you are lending to what we're doing here. There is all the things that you can do if you go over to AmericanMcGee.com, which I don't think we've actually loaded up. So if you go to AmericanMcGee.com, somewhere down here, there it is. There's a list of things you can do to support our effort that includes signing up to the mailing list. No dead grandmothers, please. You can follow me on social media. You can go do the thing over on Patreon. This is the only month in which you can get that special on the Cheshire Kitten collector's set, so please do that right now. And then there is a shop called Mysterious where we've got all kinds of crazy stuff for sale. Did I say all of the stuff? I think it's done.
I think so.
Right.
Get a Cheshire Kitten.
Thank you. See you next time. Get bent.
Jib it up, get bent.
Jib it up.
Etc.
Bye-bye. Nope, not that.